a lot of listeners in those spots and a lot of people that we've had the good fortune of meeting over the years, people that have come to the meet and greets that we have, whether it be at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, for example, where we have the happy hours on Fridays, and we've had events over there. Of course, we've done a lot of different pregame get-togethers, Hotel Indigo most recently, but even before all that, yeah, really good stuff. And I've met people from all of those regions that were affected by the storm, so we wish all of you well. And for those that were adversely affected, yet again, I've expressed this, but you just see some of the devastation, some of the images, and you're overwhelmed. You're flabbergasted. You can't fathom the power of that. And so my thoughts are with you. I know Tom feels the same. So it's one of those rare times where I would speak for him too in that situation. I think he feels exactly as we all do, that this is a brutal thing. All right, now on with the sports. And Florida State is also brutal to watch. It's a terrible football team, and then you wonder how much of that is going to carry over into the core of the program. Like, you start to get very, very concerned now about what are the long-term ramifications for this kind of buffoonery that we see every Saturday. When you're watching a program of this magnitude look this bad, it is shocking, but it is also the reality of where we are right now. You really can't speak to any one thing, and that includes special teams, that they do well. Oh, they have a good punter, and they have a good kicker. That's not the same as a good special teams. They don't do special teams well, and they practice that to death. They don't obviously run offense with any semblance of rhythm or consistency. And certainly defensively, the lack of communication continues to be a staggering thing to bear witness to over and over and over again. And it's unacceptable. I mean, it's all the adjectives and all of the things that you would use to describe something that is failing, something that is miserable to watch, something that is tough to witness, something that you care about but is failing and not living up to any expectation, even low bar expectations. I was struck by something. I'm sure you all were at various points of this 1-4 campaign. There have been any number of times where you're taken aback and you're watching the kinds of things that bad football teams do. And I mean, god-awful football teams do. Not just like, oh, they're not good because they're not meeting a certain standard that is Florida State. We saw those lost decade teams that were not up to the standard, that were 6-6 clubs, and you would just roll your eyes at some of the things that you saw. We saw Willie Taggart's group that looked disorganized and ill-prepared. We saw the end of Jimbo's time, in which he had lost the locker room and there was no accountability, and those games were revelatory because you saw a program kind of off the tracks. I recall coming in here saying the plane is flown into the side of a mountain. And I don't know if at any point I saw any of those teams, the end of Jimbo's time, the Willie 2 years, the lost decade. I don't know if I ever saw a team look as bad as this one does. And certainly I never saw a team look as bad as this one does on the heels of having won the conference championship, won 13 games, put themselves in a position to maybe make the invitational. And that's the staggering part. It's that you have to work hard to go from being one of the elite programs in the country a year ago to one of the worst in the country this year. And I mean that. I mean that honestly, it's hard to do. Like, you really can't draw up a scenario by which you thought that was possible. I've said over and over and over again so far during this season that there were differences of opinions amongst the fan base regarding certain coaches on this staff, their coaching acumen / recruiting acumen or lack thereof, whatever it might be. These are all things that you debate when you're striving for excellence. Are we where we need to be at every position? Are we where we need to be in recruiting? Are we where we need to be in fundraising? Is our head coach a good game day coach, an X's and O's coach, house clock management? Like, you delve into all of these categories that make up hopefully successful programs and teams. And there's always margins and room for debate. That's going on in Athens, Georgia today. That's going on in Tuscaloosa. It's going on anywhere where they play great football, let alone where they're playing terrible football like here in Tallahassee at Florida State. And there's always that room to have those discussions and get into it. It's actually a lot of fun to do. Obviously, it's a lot more fun to do when you're winning football games, but usually it isn't a cataclysmic failure across the board, especially not within a program that won every regular season game they played last year and then the conference championship game. The only game they lost was after a historic, unprecedented snub in which the vast majority of your starters chose not to play in the exhibition bowl game against Georgia. So really, this is as unique a situation, certainly, that I've ever covered and that I can remember seeing. I know there are some examples. People have sent emails in to say, oh, well, one time Southern Miss went 12-0 and then went 0-12. Hey, Southern, I don't care. I'd never seen something like this where an Oklahoma or a Michigan or an Alabama or a Florida State would be in the penthouse and the very next year, the outhouse, on the floor of the outhouse. Like I've never seen anything like it. And Mike, in the postgame press conference. Now, postgame press conferences are whatever they are. You know, they're a lot of times, especially after losses, a coach will usually defer to the fact that he wants to watch the film to be sure that some of the things that seemed to rear their ugly head in that loss were really what things that he saw, right? Let me go double check and make sure that that wasn't a skewed perspective from my place on the sidelines. Maybe the eye in the sky will tell me, oh, he slipped, or there was this, or this was that. So they'll hide behind, I need to go and look at the film. You'll hear coaches kind of stick up for players a lot of times, especially if they're good kids, especially if they're kids that have done everything right up until that point. Maybe they have a blunder that really hurt you in the game. Coach will stand up for them, try to send a message of support through the press, whatever he'll do, right? Every now and then they'll say such and such stunk tonight. I did a poor job of play calling. We did a poor job of executing on defense. But Mike is steady having these conversations. He gets a lot of opportunities to have these conversations after games, the ones in which we lose, decidedly. He talked about the penalties that ruined drives for us and the penalties that extended drives for them. Mike spoke directly about poor technique. He thought that there were multiple incidents of players using poor technique that led to penalties, that led to a lack of execution. He described the second half, and just sort of a catch-all, as embarrassing. He also said that there were a ton of missed tackles. He made mention of all these things while also noting that they have worked very hard to simplify things. I believe I've heard that 4 weeks in a row. He said that they didn't execute. The opposing team executed better. He said that maybe I'm not doing a good enough job of leading. That's an understatement. He went on to say that, he talked about leadership or the lack thereof and what the definition of leadership is. But let's go through this now. I've got a head coach in year 5. And what is this, week 5 of the season? Week 6, whatever it is. I know we played week 0. I get the week screwed up. I've got a head coach telling me that his team doesn't execute well, that they do not communicate well, that they lack mental toughness and focus, that they've simplified everything that, time and again, commit costly penalties in the most crucial situations. Well, that is the very definition of being very poorly coached. If your team cannot execute what you practice, if your team has poor technique while attempting to execute what you practice, if your team commits an abundance of penalties, particularly in key situations that revert you to a second and long as opposed to a 1st and 10 in red zone, territory, you're talking about the definition of a team that is poorly coached. And I don't think Mike would argue with that. So when you're telling me you can't communicate, I'm telling you that your staff is doing a poor job of coaching and that you're doing a poor job of coaching. If we're still talking about communication issues this far into the season, what is it you say you do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Because that can't continue, and yet it happens every week. It's referenced by him in the postgame. If you don't tackle well, right? If you technically aren't sound with what you're trying to do, well, whose fault is that? You don't communicate, you're not technically sound. You have coverage busts week after week after week where guys are just running free. You've told me you've simplified everything that you possibly can, and yet none of these things are executed. I don't care how much I or you or anybody else likes Mike Norvell, and I do. That is, by using his own words, the definition of bad coaching, poor coaching, a poorly coached team. And I think that when you come to those conclusions as the head coach, you have no choice but to think about how, A, you arrived at that place, and B, the amount of changes that you're going to have to make on your staff. Because I would have no other conclusion, I'm not going to fire myself, but to think that I'm being let down by my assistants. That if I continue to watch an offensive line that can't communicate and that allows pressures, sometimes really basic pressures, if I've got guys that are using poor technique in terms of tackling or blocking or footwork, got to look at my assistant coaches that are teaching it or allowing it to happen and wonder why that is. If my quarterback continues to make these kind of mistakes, I got to look at myself as an offensive coach, as a play caller, as a teacher. I got to look at my quarterback coach. I got to look at all these things, right? Nothing can go unscrutinized. Everything has to be. Now the question is, in the midst of a lost season, and this is a lost season, and by the way, this ass kicking that's coming Saturday night is going to add to the crescendo of voices from all over the college football world talking about Mike Norvell, his staff, and this program in a negative light. You've got to be preparing for next year and what you're going to have to do to pull yourself out of the gutter, the college football gutter. You'd have to be asking yourself, I've got to be honest with what I missed, how we arrived at this place, and which coaches I need to fire. And I would think you and me, those of you in the audience watching this, Tom and I have talked about it a lot before too. I'm having this discussion with you now. We're probably more apt to be very, very aggressive with the changes that we want to see made. I think we're more inclined to say I'd fire 5, 6, 7 coaches. I don't think he'll fire 7 coaches. It rarely, if ever, happens. I think he might fire 3, maybe 4. And here's the part that's really troubling is that if you're going to have to dig yourself out of this massive hole that you've created somehow on the heels of a 13-0 season, still perplexing, then you're going to also have to, I think, find a way to salvage something of what is going to be a rapidly falling, in terms of ranking, recruiting class. What are the chances that you're going to hold on to some of the cornerstone pieces of this class with the kind of campaign that you're having while you're in the midst of probably contemplating many firings? I could foresee 2, 3 more, at least, critical pieces of this class deciding, yeah, you know what? I think I'll take the offer from Texas, who's been working on flipping me. Texas seems to have a little bit more going for it right now. Georgia and LSU seem to have a little bit more going for them right now than Florida State does. I really wanted to go to Florida State, but the Noles made it impossible for me to continue with my commitment. So those guys are going to leave, or you're going to have to pay through the roof to keep them. So now you're going to overpay for everybody, because that is the only way out of this, by the way. So you're going to have to overpay the players on your own team to try to keep them from leaving. We now know players' patience levels are very, very small, and with unlimited transfers that are allowed, you've got to fully suspect that many of the good young players that are maybe not getting playing time that they'd like or aren't having the results that they expected, many of those guys are probably going to be guys that take a good look around, that have an opportunity to maybe go elsewhere, and the only way that you can convince them to stay, if you're so inclined, is to probably overpay them. Now, that says nothing of what you're going to have to do in terms of going outside of your locker room to try to woo players to come here. And a lot of people will tell you that you're going to have to go out and bring 15, 20, 25 players in from the transfer portal. I would suggest you not do that. I would suggest you bring in 5 can't-miss, awesome-ass players. Plug-and-play starters, ass kickers day one. Cam Ward types. I would go find me a starting quarterback. Now, that means Brock Glenn's gone. So be it. I would have a long conversation with Luke about how I think he's the future, but I'm not ready to start him with the mess that we have on our hands right here. He'll be the backup to whomever this starter is that I'm bringing in that will hopefully change our fortunes for next season. Got to have a good quarterback. I'm going to go overpay for the very best quarterback that is available that has a proven track record of being very good. If there's even one in. History says there will be one, maybe two, that you feel very good about. I'd go get that guy. I'd go get a huge difference maker off the edge at defensive end. And I'd overpay and make sure I have a guy that is as a disruptive force in college football as you'll see. A havoc player, okay, off the edge. I'd probably go out and overpay a left tackle. I'd make sure I had a legitimately good left tackle. So now I have a defensive end, I have a quarterback, and I have a left tackle. From there, you can pick maybe one or two more spots that you believe are of vital importance. Defensive tackle would be one of my positions of choice, and I'd overpay for a certifiable badass in the middle of my line. Absolutely would do that. And maybe one other guy. And I'd save the money on the other 10 to 15 players that you're wanting to bring in, perhaps sprinkle that within the roster of good young players I have that I'm trying to keep from preventing from them leaving, okay? And I'd go from there and understand that I'm not winning anything, but maybe I can go 9-3, maybe I can go 8-4, get us back on track. I would make those changes to the coaching staff that I alluded to, and maybe, just maybe, I still have a job at the end of 2 years from right now. Because as we sit here today, Mike Norvell, not this year, and probably not next, is fighting for his job. There's no other way to look at it. Mike Norvell has successfully squandered all of the goodwill that was built up by turning this thing around pretty quickly in a 10-win season and a 13-win season. All of that has evaporated. All of that is gone. The evidence of whatever that was seems to have left us in the lurch, and what we have now is a product on the field that, not just by Florida State standards, but by any standard, for a big-time Power 4 conference football team is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. They're the worst in this league, just about. Sure, if you want to, in a vacuum, we can argue about, would you be favored over North Carolina right now? Would you be favored over Duke right now? You might. Do you think, with any degree of confidence, that you'd win those games? Not with any degree of confidence. But I would say at the end of that conversation, what the hell are we talking about? Why are we having this discussion? This is Florida State football. What are you doing? What have you done? What have you wrought? This is humiliating. This fan base is humiliated. Those players are about to check out. Saw some evidence of that in the second half of this football game on Saturday night. What do you think they're going to do when Clemson, who's a lot bigger and a lot stronger and a lot faster and angry about what happened a year ago, edgier to say the least, what do you think they're going to do when Clemson drops 24 in the first quarter on your ass? Who's whipping your offensive line in a way that certainly Memphis couldn't do, or even Boston College, or say Cal, or whomever, Georgia Tech, right? Clemson's another animal. Those are elite players. These are NFL caliber defensive linemen. This is the envy of the league on the defensive line. They're going to brutalize your offensive line. If DJ starts, I'm worried about his health long term. He can't move now against vastly inferior foes up front. What's he going to do when those guys break through the line in record speed? There's no quick fix. And now I have to have a conversation with you about whether or not the head coach is a dead man walking. Because he might be. I could be wrong. He could get it turned around. We are in an unprecedented era of college football. There are things in place now that allowed for the turnaround under Mike Norvell and his ability to exploit those things, recognize those things, pounce on those opportunities to turn a program around. They're still there for him now. It's a different set of circumstances. It's a different modus operandi as we move forward, but it is still available to him in a way that could maybe, in this set of circumstances, allow for you to get it turned around. Ordinarily, if this were yesteryear and we didn't have access to a transfer portal or unlimited transfers in general, I would tell you he's done. that the momentum is gone, that you've squandered all of the goodwill, you can't recruit anymore, and that this is a matter of time. May still be. That's the sad reality we find ourselves in, is that the guy we thought was the guy that gave us proof that he was the guy, has somehow now turned around and inexplicably wasted all of that faith, belief, and goodwill. And I don't know how it happened. I can't fathom how it happened, but here we are. The evidence is on the field. When you watch this team play and the anger you feel inside, after a while it diminishes, right? You don't get mad anymore. But you do sit back, I think, to a large degree in disbelief as you flip the channels and watch other teams play college football. It's remarkable. Almost every game I tune to, I'm sitting there watching Kentucky beat Ole Miss on the road. Mark Stoops' staff, excellent staff. He's an excellent coach. They're on the road beating Ole Miss. You see how physical they play? Do you see how quickly their players trigger, read, react, trigger, and fight and fly to the ball? You see how physical they are? Go around and you look. There are no shortage of teams that have great certainty in what they're doing. They may not be any good. Some of them you watch, you're like, there's a little bless your heart. You're fighting your ass off. You believe in your head coach. You're just not big enough, strong enough, fast enough to pull it off this weekend because you're going against a juggernaut and you're not going to get it done. But man, do you fight, and man, do you play with an edge, and man, do you believe, and man, are you certain with what your assignment is, and man, do you play physical. Good on you, kid. That's why I love the game. But you never say that when you watch us. You never look out on that field and say, boy, they are, I'll tell you what, to a man, they are locked in. They know what they're doing. They're triggering. They're playing fast. They're firing off the ball. They're tackling well. Their heart's in it. Their head's in it. They feel it. They care deeply. They may not be good enough, but man, I'm proud of them. You don't ever say that watching us. You might say it about an individual for a moment. I thought Josh Farmer played as good a football game as can be played as a defensive lineman a week ago. He's played hard every game this season, by the way, but there was an example of a guy you're like, that translates. He's probably going to the league and he's playing really hard. Good for him. But you just see pockets and little moments. You don't see collectively a defense that does that, and you certainly collectively don't see an offense that does that. Now, I'm not telling you they quit. I'm not telling you that this group has checked out forevermore and is not going to play hard. I am saying that the defeatist in them is evident around every turn the second something goes wrong. They no longer believe. They don't believe that they're going to be able to overcome that. They don't believe that the offense is going to go down and make a play when they have to have it. They don't believe that they're going to, after this turnover, get this opportunity to turn the game around and change everything back in their – they don't believe that. They don't believe that. You can see it in the way that they look at each other, the way that they look at the coaches, the way that they play. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to watch a program that you care about deeply, that I care about deeply, that we all want to see succeed. To watch them play as if they're bereft of hope is really difficult. And it's always a matter of time, because you'll watch a half and you'll say, okay, that was incredibly sloppy, but we're in it and we have a chance. But deep down, there's the voice that's telling you they're a bad team, Jeff. They're not going to do what you need them to do. They're not going to execute. They're not going to play with good technique and leverage. They're not going to avoid the stupid penalty. They're not going to avoid the critical mistake that changes the outcome of the game. They're not. They've yet to do it. Only going against the anemic offense that is Cal allowed you to barely eke out a win 14-9. Other than that, you've really not been in a situation. I don't care what the final score was against Georgia Tech. Florida State got thoroughly outplayed in that game. They got dominated by Boston College. And Memphis isn't even any good. And yet, you never really felt like we were going to come back in that game late. You didn't. And this second half, 28-7 in the second half for that SMU team? Come on, man. It's unacceptable. It's awful. And now we find ourselves having a daily discussion in the macro. Nobody cares if I break down the Florida State-Clemson matchup with Tom this week. We could talk about the X's and O's of what Cade Klubnik and those receivers and that offensive line and certainly that defensive front does at Clemson. You don't care. You don't. You're thinking, is this the guy that is still going to be the head coach here 2 years from now? How many people is he going to fire? Can we salvage a recruiting class? Wonder what Michael Alford's thinking about this disaster. Man, the university is spending a gazillion dollars investing in football, and this is the product? Wonder how our lawsuit's going to play out. You're not thinking anything about this game, and it's FSU Clemson week. It's a nighttime kick at Doak against Clemson. We should be through the roof, over the moon about this matchup. And none of us care that much about the minutia of the keys to this game. But rather, I wonder if we lose by 40, 50, how many are they going to hang on us? Will he start DJ? That's where you're at. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Pinch A Penny Pools has the largest selection of premium hot springs hot tubs in the city. You might even call it Tallahassee's Hot Tub Hub. 12,000 square feet of hot tubs, with over 50 of them on site. Over 20,000 gallons of tub capacity to choose from. That's 4,620,000 cubic inches of hot tubs. But I digress. So why should you own a hot tub from Pinch A Penny Pools and Spas, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. Number one, health benefits, of course. The healing powers of soaking in a hot, bubbling pool of water go back centuries. Google it. Number two, Pinch A Penny has hot tubs with technology called Freshwater IQ. It gives you real-time chemical readings and tells you exactly what to add to keep the water at peak perfection, with automated analysis to help you control the chlorine and pH. It's hot tubs for dummies. Sign me up. Number three, they have the best prices, of course. Plus, you get a free accessory and no interest financing. Easy peasy. But if you don't want to take my word for it, check them out yourself. Pinch A Penny Pools and Spas. Locally owned, locally operated, and the easiest way to find relaxation at home.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
When you need a plumber quick, how long is an acceptable time to have to wait?
Hey, it's the Millers again. Just calling you about our little plumbing problem.
2 hours?
Hey, we were hoping to get here soon because the water is getting really bad. I mean, please hurry.
4 hours?
I know you said you were on your way, but, honey, tell the kids to drink water.
8 hours?
Don't worry about us.
At M&L Plumbing, you'll never have to wait long for quality, dependable service, right when you need it. At M&L Plumbing, we listen to our customers, and our qualified technicians aim to achieve 100% customer satisfaction. So the next time you need plumbing work or repairs, think of the name M&L Plumbing, your local plumbing experts, commercial or residential. Give us a call, 850-575-9393, or visit us online at mandlplumbing.com. M&L Plumbing, for all of your plumbing needs.
This is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Investors, are you looking for a creative way to purchase your next rental property? Are you looking to get into the Airbnb space? If so, you need to know about DSCR loans. It stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. These are loans that do not require traditional income verification. As long as the proposed rent covers the mortgage payment on the subject property, that's the only income you need. If you're looking at investing and don't know if you can qualify, let's set up a plan to get your next income producing property and start putting you on a path to passive income. Give me a call at 954-369-6171. And don't forget, every fellow Knoll that we close a loan for, I will personally make a donation of $250 to the Battle's End. It's Shannon Young at 954-369-6171.
Equal housing lender, NMLS number 373031.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is sponsored by Shannon Young with Fairway Mortgage Corporation. He's so good, he's even got Jimbo's Christmas tree pre-approved for a new home. Visit loansforknolls.com.
Jeff Cameron Show rolling on Monday. It's a toughie. It's a toughie, Tom. Got carried away there in segment 1. How are you, brother?
Hi, buddy. I'm doing okay. I'm not though. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm pissed.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I hate that we get past pissed quick, though.
Well, and that's your open is beyond that point because you're not pounding the desk.
No.
But what makes me mad, and maybe it's just because you were measured, I decided to be more mad, is because when you watch Memphis play or SMU play or Cal or Georgia Tech or even Boston College to a degree, like BC might be the best team we played so far. Probably is. That's it. You're just left speechless. You're going, we are not good enough or coached well enough or we don't care enough or we're not smart enough.
Whatever it is, right? Yeah.
To take advantage of the fact that that team is rubbish that we're playing. That last year's group would have smoked these opponents. That 2022's football team would have smoked every one of these opponents. That's what's frustrating. You watch them play and you say, gettable, average here, not very good there. The problem is that they believe in what they're doing more than we do. They're more prepared than we are. And so therefore, it can be true that you say Memphis is not good or SMU is average at best. But you're lesser than that.
Yeah, you are. You're
just lesser.
Yeah.
And it's worse because you've got better players than they do. We can have the discussion about elite players or top 5 roster and the expectations that were set in the preseason. Sure, that's one conversation. This conversation is, do you have more resources and more talent than the 5 teams you just played? And you've got more resources and more talent than every single one of them. Probably you could put 4 of them together in terms of resources and it would not amount to what we have here at our disposal to succeed with. That is where the anger comes from.
Yeah, you're not getting anything out of the investment that you've made now in this roster. Florida State's financially invested in this roster to the tune of between 11 and $13 million. So it's staggering to think about the lack of productivity and return on investment there. And a lot of it is certainly everything falls at the feet of the head coach. But, you know that look you keep seeing on Mike's face? I've had a lot of people ask me about it. Like, what's with the look on Mike's face? I'm like, well, that's the look of a man who understands that he's overseen a dumpster fire and it's his responsibility for it not to be. But he also has the look of a man who understands that some of the more significant changes that need to be made can't be made in season or wouldn't do you much good in season. Now, we can get into, in the current climate of college football and the dates that things matter or don't, or the way, in comparison to the way it used to be. Maybe now you do have to start to make changes in season. Maybe now you do fire coaches during the year. Maybe now you do have to start to look at that differently than you used to. And perhaps that's real. But, certainly it's not this week. And you play Clemson this week, and you're not showing signs that this is all going to get turned around and that it's coming together. You know that the line you have, banged up as it is the line that you have. That's not going to block anybody who's any good. And you've got a quarterback who doesn't see it, is really, really slow to operate. I'm not just talking about a lack of foot speed, which is something to behold. I'm just talking about he doesn't see it. He didn't get the ball out on time. He doesn't check the right protections. I have to assume. I'm not in the quarterback room, so I guess I can't know that. But years of watching and playing football seems to tell me that context clues say that he doesn't check the right protections. The offensive line doesn't communicate. They're not physically imposing. So that's not going to get better. You don't have a crazy difference maker at running back. You don't have an elite player out on the edge. You don't have somebody at wide receiver. Well, good Lord, you don't have a tight end, that's for sure. At least not one that's been playing. Now, Landon Thomas got a touchdown. We got to see him get in the game. That's exciting. But it's tough because you watch like a Jeremiah Smith who went to Ohio State, and you certainly saw the 17-year-old phenom Ryan Williams make that catch and run after in the Georgia-Alabama game. Not that you were going to ever get him. I think he's from Mobile, Alabama. You weren't going to get him. But you understand, you see freshman wide receivers. You could argue the 2 best receivers in the country are freshmen. And you watch that, you get pissed. And you're like, well, there's nobody quite dynamic like that I see on my roster, at least not anybody that's getting in games. And it's tough to stomach because you wonder where the cavalry is, like what's going to come to save the day. I do think there are some young players that I'm excited to watch grow. I worry that they'll be sullied by this season, that you'll see, perhaps some regression in some ways because of what's happening every Saturday. I'm worried about that long term. I don't know, other than overpaying for a roster overhaul, I guess, what you can do to salvage this. I'd like to see Mike, whose organizational skills I've always thought highly of, and whose work ethic I think very highly of. I'd like to see Mike be able to make it, to get it turned around. But I don't know that he can. I don't have a great conviction that this is going to get turned around for the better anytime soon. And that really leaves an empty spot in your heart, in your stomach. Like you're watching this now and you've got to go through a lot more of this, Tom. Like these games only get tougher. Clemson's going to be 10x better than anybody we've seen up to this point.
Yeah, and they're motivated not by what happened last year, maybe a little bit,
probably a little bit,
but more about the Georgia embarrassment in the first game they played this season. And so they've got to erase that out of the minds of an invitational committee.
They're doing it every week, buddy.
Right. They do. That's what they're here to do. We're the next one in the way.
Eviscerate.
I don't think it's about we've got a vendetta against Florida State. No, man, they're going to turn on that film and not feel that because they're going to see a team that lost to Memphis. So the thing that they're going to have to battle is complacency because they see a discombobulated mess of an opponent.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to have to battle, not the fear of us defeating them, of us embarrassing them. They're not afraid of us.
No.
So what Dabo's got to do this week is say, hey, guys, I know, another breakdown here. We tried to put 3 clips together where they don't have a breakdown, but I can't find those 3.
Yeah. So just trust me, it could happen this weekend.
Trust me, guys. The NFL scouts are telling me they don't understand how it got so bad down there, okay? They don't understand it, but we don't want it to show up that they put 3 in a row against us because they could be good enough. So, guys, I need you to lock in. Please put your phones down. I know what this film is telling you guys. Put the phones down.
It's tough.
That's where we are.
Yeah, and I think, though, again, at the beginning of this season and really the offseason, and I said that after you have a 13-0 campaign, 13-1 if you want to count that Georgia game as well, fine. Still 13-1, you're still conference champion. I feel like we were talking about what the next step is, like the things that you should be looking to achieve as you move forward. Because I didn't feel like, I said this last year, I didn't feel like they were a national championship team. I don't think they would have won the Invitational. I thought they deserved to be there, but I don't think they would have won it. But we can debate that. That's fine. We can argue about it. I don't really care to do that right now. We've already kind of done it before. The point was I thought they had some areas that they got to get better, and I thought it was personnel. I thought, we're not up to snuff physically in some areas. In particular, I think that when you look at the very best offensive lines in the country, you see a different looking player than the ones that are here. But the point of that was always striving to try to reach that place. Right now, you're having fun. It's like you start playing golf and you can't hit the ball. You can't matriculate the ball forward. It's towed, it's heeled, it's everywhere. And then you take a bunch of lessons, and all of a sudden you're hitting the center of the club face a little bit more often. And so it's not such a struggle to hit the ball. So now you can play golf. Now you're like, oh, now I'm playing golf. I'm not worried whether or not I'm going to hit it fat or thin. I'm going to be worried about the direction I want to hit it, which club I need to use, where on the green I want to land it. That's a lot more fun because now you're playing golf. And every step along the way allows you to create and have more fun, challenges, those kinds of things in the game of golf. I thought Florida State had arrived at that place. Like they're hitting the center of the club face now. So what do they have to do to be, Tiger Woods? What do they have to do? And let's say if Georgia or Alabama be Tiger Woods, right? We may be good, but we're not quite there. What else do we need to do? That's where I thought we were having. These were the conversations that we were talking about. And now, I'm sure you guys watched Alabama, Georgia, in particular that second half. My goodness gracious. But if you watch that, if you've tuned in to Ohio State this year, if you've watched Texas, name your teams that, you think are legitimate contenders to make and maybe win the national championship, the playoffs. You see that Florida State's not anywhere close. I mean, Florida State can't beat these group of teams that they've faced that aren't going to sniff a playoff, right? I mean, so like, how did we go from having the conversation about trying to be scratched to, oh, we're back over here, we can't hit the ball? Can't even hit the ball. I got to start all over again? I thought we were beyond this. It's just a lot to digest, and a lot of people, a lot of angry people. I know we got to go to break, but a lot of people who I do feel for, my dad being one of them. I mean, these people were asked to spend, Tom, $15,000, $17,000, $20,000 more to enter into that facility that's being built, to be a part of that.
First-class facility.
And this is what they're getting? Like, you signed up for that?
It includes Wi-Fi for $9.99 a game.
They have these add-on packages where if I press plus, it just throws it into the package where one time a game, I can pick the time. It could be second quarter, maybe early third, I don't know. And they'll bring me a hot dog. And I only had to pay $4,000 for that add-on. And never mind the fact it's going to look so pretty.
Now, the Wi-Fi is for messages only. You can't stream video, but it's $10 a game. It's good Wi-Fi.
That's not a bad deal at $10 a game.
Think about what they charge you on a plane. It's actually pretty reasonable.
Well, just in case you forgot, we play Alabama, game number 1. Welcome to our brand new stadium, everybody. Bend over. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Just days after Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4 storm, President Joe Biden approved a major disaster declaration for the state of Florida, paving the way for federal resources to pour into hard-hit counties. The president's action makes federal funding available to affected individuals in Charlotte, Citrus, Dixie, Franklin, Hernando, Hillsborough, Jefferson, Lafayette, Lee, Levi, Madison, Manatee, Pasco, Pinellas, Sarasota, Taylor, and Wakulla counties. A number of items are covered by the declaration, including grants for temporary housing and home repairs, loans for uninsured property losses, and other programs. Residents and business owners in the counties listed can apply for assistance by registering online at disasterassistance.gov or by calling 1-800-621-3362 or by using the FEMA app. This is Rachel Lene with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Daytime highs approaching 89 this afternoon under mainly sunny skies, southwest winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 72. Daytime highs approaching 86 tomorrow. Upper 80s Wednesday and Thursday with a slight chance for storms Thursday. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Currently, it's 87 degrees.
Games for Less, Tallahassee's largest selection of new and used games, as well as new and used consoles like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari 2600, PS4, and PS5. You name it. Locally owned and operated since 1994, trade-ins are not only welcome, but Games for Less pays more for your trade-ins than the big chain stores. That's not all. Games for Less now buys and sells new and used vinyl records to boot. George loves the Beatles, by the way. Reserve all the new releases today at Games for Less, conveniently located in the Walmart Supercenter Plaza on Appalachian Parkway. There is no Bigfoot, Eddie. Would you stop with that nonsense?
There's a Bigfoot, Jeff.
I wish there were. By the way, I don't want you to point to me as the guy that takes all the fun out of the room. I wish there was the Loch Ness Monster. I wish there was the Bigfoot. I wish there was the Chupacabra. All the things.
They're all mythical except for the Bigfoot. The Sasquatch.
The Bigfoot?
The Bigfoot. There's big feet. There's lots of them.
So like different, breeds, like different kinds.
There's like, families. There's different families. And,
so there's if they're in the snow, you call them a Sasquatch.
Or the Yeti, right?
Yeah,
and then here in Florida, that's a skunk ape. And, I've never heard that one.
By the way, why do you think it's real? We would have found them by now.
They're the hide and seek champions of the world. Nobody finds the Bigfoot.
I think you believe in Bigfoot.
I do believe in Bigfoot.
You don't believe.
I believe in Bigfoot.
Don't tell anybody you believe in Bigfoot.
I would go look for Bigfoot, but he scares me.
Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
SpiritExpress.com. It's a tough one. I got to tell you, it's a tough one. You saw it during the break. SpiritExpress.com. I'm still going. I'm staying. I'm drinking my coffee.
It'll be Irish coffee that day.
You can't take away this good time in Chicago with the Windy City Seminole Club. I'm going to have a good time.
You could do Hawaiian coffee the way I do it. Put some Kahlua in there instead.
Kahlua,
Oh,
yeah.
it's
so good.
So good.
Well, I think we need that before the show each day, right about now.
Who says I haven't had a bunch?
So we'll be going, and by we, I mean I'll be there. I'm sure some other members of the Warchant staff will be there as well. We'll see. Saturday, November the 9th. It's Chicago to South Bend. Travel and tailgate experience. Good times.
You could use promo code Warchant. I'm going to throw that in there too. There's a promo code for y'all out there, just in case. So when you get to the checkout line,
use the promo code
Warchant.
You know, Tom, I said 2 weeks ago that if you could, I wasn't suggesting that if you're not a sporting guy or gal that you suddenly become one. But I said that you can get those advanced lines in certain parts of the country for games that are 2 and 3 weeks out. And I thought, well, let's have a gander at what they've got Clemson at right now over Florida State. I was stunned by how low the number was. Then I looked on Sunday, and I saw that it came out at -14. And I thought, really? I would imagine that there are a ton of football fans, and in particular even Florida State fans, that have watched every one of the games that their team has played and is aware, certainly, of what Clemson's been doing to people post-Georgia. And I think that they probably jumped on that -14, Tom. Just a hunch. I think they're going to jump on that -14 because this has a feel to it, and that feel is you're curled up in the fetal position watching Florida State try to compete with Clemson this weekend. Football's a weird game. Strange things can happen. You could be the benefactor of 3 or 4 turnovers, maybe a special team score. Next thing you know, it's in the second half. You're in it. Out of nowhere, you begin to believe. Fans are going nuts. Sure, it could happen. Doesn't seem likely now, does it? Does not seem hardly likely. I think, the way I viewed this game for weeks now, once I saw that Cade Klubnik had the light bulb go off and watched how hard Clemson was playing, how angry they were playing, when I started to see that, I began to get nervous, and I hoped for rapid improvement from our Noles. I have not seen the rapid improvement that I was hoping for from our Noles.
No, you saw the opposite. And while I don't condone letting off the gas defensively in the second half, I can understand it.
Yeah, they're looking at that offense like, you bunch of deadbeats.
Yeah, well, probably more than just the offense, too, with that 4th and goal call from hell.
It's a tough one.
I mean...
Oh, yeah, buddy. Here's the problem.
If I'm a defensive lineman who's been putting it on the line for you, and I see that that's the call...
toughie. Mm-hmm.
3rd and goal, you could have tricked him if Toafili executes his block.
Why is Toafili the lead blocker for your quarterback on the goal line?
Because they'll never see it coming. But they did see it, and you didn't score it when you had an opportunity to walk in. So you don't go back to it. That's the reason you ran it in the first place, was they'll never see it coming. You're going to double down and say, okay, now they're really never going to see it coming because I'm going to do it again.
They don't think I have the chutzpah to call the exact same slow developing play again.
I'm going to get Rhett's attention. Rhett, I'm running it again. Think I'm telling the truth? I dare you to defend it. I'm running it again.
Yeah. That's how sure I am this is going to work.
Or that I'm not actually doing it. Whoa.
So it's brutal. It is a tough thing to, so one of the things that we're ignoring are the massive faux pas in coaching within the game. You're talking about one of them. But, you've got a kid calling for a fair catch on a punt after a safety. There are things that just reveal the ridiculousness.
Well, hey, at home a couple of weeks ago, they tried to run their looky-loo fake punt that they executed against NC State a couple of years ago. And one half of the field was doing it, and the other half wasn't.
Yeah.
That's why they got like a 70-yard field flip.
Yeah. So there are so many things that we would be questioning specifically.
Hey, John, did we call the fake there? I thought we did. Did we signal it in? I'm not sure.
That seems about right. That's par for the course, as they say. It is, I brought it up before the break about, man, when you have an eye towards the future, because it's hard to remain in the present while mired in the muck. When you look down the road, Tom, you really get scared because of what's coming down the tracks in season and what the off season is going to entail and who your first opponent is next year.
Yeah, what'll piss me off more is if in those games they do some of the things offensively that we've been begging for because of the fear of embarrassment.
Right,
gonna like they weren't forced before to do it. But now that we're playing a team that could smoke us, so you're gonna wake up to the fact that we were lousy?
Yeah. I shudder to think. That's really the phrase of the day. I shudder to think. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Ira's going to join us here in a minute. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Summertime in Tallahassee, and it's gonna get hot. The last thing you want to do is your own yard work, so call the Lawn Johns instead. Here's what Linda had to say after her lawn service.
The Lawn Johns transformed my yard. Mark had excellent landscaping ideas and recommendations for the best plants for certain areas. The plan was executed efficiently, and now the yard is beautiful and full of color and variety.
Call the Lawn Johns today for all your lawn care and landscaping at 322-2567 or request a free quote online at thelawnjohns.com.
Enterprises, roofing and construction services. TeeSparkConstruction.com. We conquer all creeks. We fix those storm leaks. Call 850-766-1340. TeeSpark Enterprises, roofing and construction services. TeeSparkConstruction.com.
CCC 1331204.
Don't miss TSC Tuesdays every Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. during the Greg Tish Show. Find out what's happening at Tallahassee State College every Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. on Real Talk 93.3 FM.
Hey man, if you heard the sound, the Calco True is the best in town. Rings, diamonds, hearing bracelets, and more. And Calco True,
When was the last time you randomly did something nice for someone that means a lot to you? Now, I say this every day at the end of my show for everybody to be a better person today than you were yesterday. Well, one way to do that is to drop into Pentalta and get a gift for someone who deserves it. It'll brighten their day, their week, maybe even their year. You don't have to wait for a holiday or special occasion, so don't wait to go check out a true local gem, serving Tallahassee since 1988. Now sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentalta.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
This is Brian Kilmeade, and I'm excited to be on the air in the capital city. Be sure to tune into my show. I'll be giving you all the latest news, information, and the truth you demand. The Brian Kilmeade Show is live from 9 till noon, right here on Real Talk 93.3.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show, live and local on Real Talk 93.3, WVFT, Greta, Tallahassee. Your Sports Flash update on Real Talk 93.3, brought to you by Fulmar's Pawn, Gun and Gold. More than you might expect with two great locations in Tallahassee.
NFL football from Sunday, the Jaguars dropped to 0-4 as they fall to the Texans 24-20. Trevor Lawrence threw for just 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jaguars will host the Colts coming up on Sunday. Fantastic win for the Buccaneers. They knock off the Eagles 33-16 as Baker Mayfield throws for 347 yards and 2 touchdowns. Buccaneers have a short weekday matchup against Atlanta on Thursday night. The Dolphins are in action this evening as they host Tennessee. Tyler Huntley is expected to start at quarterback. Baseball yesterday, the Rays season comes to an end, losing to Boston 3-1, and the Marlins season comes to an end. They beat the Blue Jays 3-1. This Sports Flash is brought to you by Fulmar's Pawn, Gun, and Gold, more than you might expect with 2 great locations in Tallahassee. I'm Matt Pauley on Real Talk 93.3.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Febreze.
Fabric Talk. Hey, it's me, your couch. Today's my favorite day of the week. Febreze Fabric Spray Day. The occasional deep cleans are nice, but in between, you know I'm needing a refresh. Ooh, here she comes with the Febreze Fabric Spray. Oh yeah, spritz them armrests. Don't be shy. Nothing like a good spray down to get me smelling so fresh and clean. Don't forget my back. Nice. Febreze Fabric Spray. It's just that easy. Now we can both breathe happy. Febreze.
The kids are back in school, and that means more homework, more projects, more research, and more screen time for the kids. These days, you can't get much done without using a phone, tablet, or computer, so you'll need all your devices working properly. Macklemore Systems is here to help. Not only can you get repairs, upgrades, and replacements, but you can also get expert advice, guidance, and consultations on how to maximize the use of your Apple gear. The Trapper Keepers are gone, and in this digital world, Macklemore Systems are your digital experts. Online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50. For those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
Florida's capital city. This is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hour. It's going to be a little bit earlier. In fact, it will be in this segment that we bring Ira in. He was at the game in Dallas, and I think I even caught. We'll have to ask him. I think he even caught an exchange. Maybe not an exchange. Maybe it was one-sided. A Florida State fan was a little frustrated with the ongoing dilemma that is Florida State football and had something to say about it as Mike was leaving the field.
What, you don't think Mike said something like, bring your ass down here and say it to my face?
No, I don't think he did.
No, we're not getting there, are we?
I
At
think
that point,
he continued to jog. So I have a question for you. I know you're on edge right now. You have to be because your Mets are playing the Braves. It's a doubleheader.
And they're losing.
Yeah. So it's a doubleheader. If you win one, you're in. In fact, if these two teams split the doubleheader, they're both in, and Arizona is out. Only if one of them is swept is the other out.
Feels like a very Mets thing to do.
I don't think so, buddy, because let's just say for a second that you lose this game that you're currently trailing in, just for hypothetical purposes. Who the hell are the Braves? Aren't going to throw Chris Sale again, too?
No, certainly they won't.
So,
but it just feels like, all right, now all you got to do is beat this quad A team, and then you're going to feel the pressure and not do that. So I prefer they win in the moment. But yeah, this does feel like gentleman's agreement Monday. It does.
Silly the way this worked out. MLB screwed this up.
They did. So did Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta does this all the time.
But this is where a commissioner, if he has a backbone, comes in and says, no, we're not doing that because I'm not having a doubleheader to decide who gets in the playoffs at the end of the year. This is ridiculous, and this is what you're going to do. We're going to move the game up to Monday, and we're going to play it.
Getaway day games at night, rain delay shenanigans like this. I get that this is the part of the country with pop-up storms, and it's not like many other regions of the country.
Yeah,
but they saw this thing coming early enough that they could have played at least a doubleheader on Tuesday. Well, even if you're saying don't take their off day on Monday last week,
I would have taken it and said we're playing the game. We're going to play the game.
Me too.
So that's the set of circumstances that we find ourselves.
Arizona's like, don't tell me they're going to do this, and it's the likeliest outcome is a 1-1 split today.
It is the likeliest
extremely likely outcome.
Oh, you could almost picture a scenario by which the managers would wink, wink, nod this thing. I mean, we're both in. If we just split this thing, screw Arizona. Let's go. The problem is in this situation is if I read it right, the Braves are going to have to fly to San Diego, and it starts tomorrow.
Yeah, that's correct.
So here's the thing.
Like, they can't play Milwaukee.
Right.
Like the Mets could play either. Technically, if they swept today, then they would have to go out to San Diego.
Right.
But the Braves can only play the Padres.
Right. So the Braves are going to San Diego, and they're going tomorrow.
Right. So if they win, and let's just say it's 2-0 in the fourth right now, they win in the next 2 hours, hour and a half, right? I'd put all those dudes on a plane for the second game. They wouldn't even be in the dugout.
Here's the problem you have.
Send them out there for a good night's rest.
I thought about this, though, Tom. Roster sizes have not increased yet. You do not have enough players. You only have, 5 outfielders? You don't have enough.
If you're over the age of 28 and you're our entire pitching staff, you're on a plane right now. Get on a plane.
Several of your starters are going to have to play. And because rosters aren't big enough, they're going to have a problem with somebody's going to have to play. Somebody's going to have to pitch that you would not want to have to pitch as you go into the playoffs. Some reliever or two is going to have to pitch. And then you turn around and you're in the playoffs the next day and you had to use those arms in a nothing game. You're going to be pissed no matter what. I mean, that's the
one thing
you find
is
yourself in.
When you have a double header, you do get a provision of an extra guy or two. So whoever that long man is from, the minors, you're going to use that. Either team would use that guy. And you have a little bit more leeway because it's the regular season and not the postseason.
Right.
So you could do a little switcheroo between games 1 and 2. And just basically throw dudes out there that you're not going to take with you on the division series, the wild card roster.
Yeah, I mean, there's still going to be a reliever or two that has to get used here, unless that guy goes unbelievably long.
Well, and the thing is, let's just say, which we won't, but we rally and we win the first game today. It's the same principle.
It's the exact same thing.
The exact same principle.
Yeah, no, it's a weird.
We should send people to Milwaukee and not try to win the game. I don't want to go to San Diego. You keep a 1 time zone away. I'm not going 2 extra time zones. No.
We need to talk to Ira here in a second. I do want to point out that the White Sox improbably went 5-1 in the final week of the season. Now, that didn't keep them from breaking the Mets record for losses, but they ended up going 41-121. So they avoided having the worst winning percentage since 1900. So a little 5-1 conclusion of the season for the White Sox.
9-4 yesterday. It's a good finish.
Absolutely crazy. Ira Schoffel, Warchant.com will join me right now. Hello, Ira. How are you, brother?
I'm great, Jeff. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay, buddy. Hey, the Bucks are good. Tampa Bay's playing some good football right now, Ira. That's my weekend of football. I just turned to the Bucks.
Hey, and the Orioles are hosting a playoff series starting tomorrow.
That is correct.
We're all good. We're all good here.
So first of all, I want to ask you, I think I heard you say this on the wrap after the game. Bless your heart staying there that late in that stadium, buddy, after that performance. You are a pro's pro. But did a fan come down and yell at Mike Norvell? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, that stadium, you're not really coming down from anywhere. Everybody's already pretty much down. But, yeah, I mean, they really didn't have a lot of ushers or anything, so people were just kind of creeping down as the game went on. And, yeah, so the entrance to the team tunnel, there was a guy basically screaming at Norvell and a couple of the players as they walked in. So, listen, man, the libations were flowing that night, and I think the guy got a little carried away.
It's going to continue. We're just getting started here, buddy. This is the concern. This is where this is headed. A very ugly, ugly time for Florida State because they're not getting better, Ira. They're not getting better, buddy. And I do wonder, your piece is great. For those that haven't read it, go to warchant.com. Ira wrote about what Mike Norvell has to do next, or spoke of what his response is to this. And Mike preaches response. And now we need to see what Mike's response is to this. I'm wondering, Ira, as you wrote that, and I love that theme, that through line is a great one, and it is a great choice by you. But I know you're also a critical thinker. So I'm wondering, did you, as you were writing it, at any point ponder what is it you think he should do or what you would do? Like, because when I go through that thought exercise, it really scares me because I don't know that there's a way out.
Well, thanks. First of all, thanks for the compliments. Yeah, I mean, I would say if you were putting a line on it right now, I would say he's an underdog just to figure it out. I mean, I would not say that it's just from the history of sports, when a coach comes into a program, has success, it seems to falter the way it's faltering here. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of examples of guys turning that around without making drastic changes. And so to me, I think that is, what I hope for Mike Norvell, because listen, man, I like Mike Norvell a lot. I think he's a very good coach. And it's not because of the way he treats us. It's the way he treats like people. Like he's
correct.
A good person.
Mm-hmm.
He's exactly what you would love for your head football coach to be. I don't think there's any other coach in the country that I would say, man, you're going to be proud to have that guy as your head coach. But the only way it's going to work is if he makes drastic changes. And even then, yeah, man, the odds are probably against him because it's hard, man. It's one thing when you come in. It's one of the things I wrote about. We've all talked about it. It's very easy almost to come in and clean house because this is not your mess. You didn't create it. You're coming in and you're the new sheriff in town and you're going to clean it up. It's much different when everything in place is your making. You created this. This is your baby. And so that's going to be much tougher for him. And I hope for his sake that he's ready to make drastic changes and give it a run, because if he doesn't, I just think it's going to spiral.
Yeah, and I wonder what it looks like. I've had a bunch of people ask, and I'm sure you've had a bunch of people reach out to you as well. I mean, what do drastic changes look like to you? I think you and I and fans would say that I would probably exchange no fewer than 4 or 5 coaches, maybe 6, 7, but that doesn't seem likely.
First of all, real quick, and I just want to say, I know people want to see somebody they want to see a sacrifice today. They want to see they want to see a sacrifice after that game. They wanted somebody left on the tarmac in Dallas. I don't know that this is a staff where it makes sense to be firing any coaches, certainly coordinators, at this point of the year. I mean, Alex Atkins isn't the offensive mastermind. That's Mike Norvell. So firing Alex Atkins wouldn't do anything for you. It would just hurt your team. Defensive coordinator Adam Fuller, I don't know that that's going to save the season. So I don't know if there's going to be any major changes during the season, but man, it has to be at that level, where you're at least considering what you're going to do. And maybe those coaches maybe consider what their futures are and listen, it's not good for anybody's career trajectory to be on a staff that goes from 13-1 to 2-11 or 2-10, and there's going to be an uncertainty going into next year. So some of these guys may leave on their own, but I think there's going to have to be some drastic changes. And then the other part of it, though, is, man, it has to be the accountability has to go to the players too, because those guys can't just sit there and think, oh, well, they're going to fire coaches, but I'm fine. I mean, he's going to need to run some players off, because I believe he needs to kind of reclaim control of that whole program.
That's another question. So I'll ask it very specifically. Do you think he's lost the locker room?
I don't think he's lost it in terms of like guys making a conscious decision where, they're saying, oh, hey, like there's a bunch of guys just acting out in defying the coaching staff here and there. But I think there are subtle examples. Listen, man, there's a standard to which they've held each other accountable. We talked about this earlier this year. Last season, they had a player on the offensive line got spit in his face by a player from Florida and managed to walk away and not retaliate and not get a penalty, and the Florida kid got kicked out of the game. This year, you're having constant penalties after plays, frustration penalties, things like that. So is that a team that's checked out or not listening? I don't know if it's consciously, but clearly this is a team that's not bought in. They're not playing with conviction. They're not playing like they believe in the overall message, and you got to get that back.
Do you think he makes a change? It would be, in my mind, somewhat unfair. I would have already made the change. I've said that publicly on this show for a couple weeks now. We don't know the health situation necessarily of DJ, but do you think he makes a change at quarterback for this game, or does he start DJ again Saturday if he's healthy enough to go?
This is such a weird situation. I don't know what's fair to anybody. I don't. I would go to Brock, but also, what are you going to do then? Are you going to bring DJ off the bench, or are you going to say he's not available and then have to play him, or because are you going to bring Luke Kromenhoek into that situation? I mean, the reality is you can't block very well. They've got a great defensive front, and if you start Brock and you say DJ is not available, well, then what if something happens to Brock? Now you got to put Luke Kromenhoek in there. I don't know, man. If DJ can play, I think it's a toss-up still. But I would play Brock, but it wouldn't shock me if if he's stuck with DJ, if he's healthy.
I think the time to have gotten Brock ready was during the bye week. You would have had an opportunity to make the change against Memphis, and then he would have had some games under his belt before you go up there before you play Clemson. Now it seems a little unfair to play him in this situation if DJ can play. Also, if I'm going to play the role of just brutal mercenary here, I'm just going to tell you, I'm letting the rental wear this ass kicking Saturday. I mean, I'm not having a guy who I need to come along before this year is up, and a guy I need to see whether or not he can play, go out there and get spooked because we can't block one of the best defensive fronts in the country, and to get brutalized, because that would mean the last 3 times he's been out there, he's faced Clemson, Georgia, and then Louisville with 4 hours of notice.
Maybe DJ still knows some guys at Clemson, and they'll do him a solid.
Hey, fellas, have you seen us? Come on, guys. I was always good to you when I was there.
He probably had some endorsements that he shared with those guys, like the Beats headphones.
Yeah, I took you out for pizza. It's all good. Come on, man. It doesn't have to go out like this, man. We don't have to do this. Yeah.
Back me softly.
It's tough to imagine what that's going to look like on a Saturday night. I think that the hardest part too, Ira, and I get that the fans' vitriol and anger is only going to be ratcheted up. It is going to grow exponentially as we go along here. And I don't blame fans who are furious right now. All of those people that were asked to spend all of that extra money to go into that stadium, and we play Alabama game 1 next year, buddy. Go ahead and name your score to that Alabama game. Let's go ahead and throw out some numbers, what we think that's going to look like as they get the new stadium open to the public, right? Everybody's going to be like, oh, this is beautiful. Here's 65-3.
I mean, listen, man, the reality, and I was thinking about this some over the weekend coming back to Dallas, because, again, I'm insulated from the fan experience for the most part. You know, I did not grow up on Florida State. I don't have to spend thousands of dollars to see this team play like a lot of the fans do. Like every weekend, you're coming up from Miami and you've got either a condo or you're renting a hotel or an Airbnb for 2 nights, and you've got travel and all these things, and then the tickets and then the license fees and all the things they're charging you for now, and the commitment for the new stadium. If that's your not vacation money, but that's like your entertainment money, and then you see this product, I get it, man. People have a right to be furious. This is not losing. This is not like losing hard-fought games. This looks like a team that's not practicing. And so, yeah, man, like as you started at the beginning of this, you know, the vitriol is going to get louder until changes get made. But I don't know, other than playing younger players, which I think, you know, when we look at the depth chart this week, there are signs of that. I don't know what else he's really going to do during the course of the season to alleviate some of the frustration.
What's your last thing, Ira? What's your gut feeling that he's seen this clearly, and that there are only so many answers you can give after another loss? That the rhetoric is going to sound repetitive because it always does. Look around the country, every coach that's losing, everybody that's mired in it and struggling. We do the show Coach Speak, and we find these guys uttering nonsense all the time because they don't want to have they can't have an honest conversation with you in the moment. They can't tell you that, you know what, listen, if you only knew this, and they're not going to do that in those press conferences. So they end up latching on to rhetoric. We're not executing. They executed better than we did. You know, I saw some things that were a little frustrating. People get tired of that. They want to hear a coach really explain it, but they're never going to get it. But what it does do is leads people to think that the coach doesn't see it, that they're mired in it, and thus they don't have a clear view of the forest for the trees. Do you think he sees it? He has to know that this is a dumpster fire.
Well, my theory is, and you know, everybody's got their own theory on why during the course of games, a lot of people are asking, why does he look like that? Like, why does he have that far off look sometimes? Why does he look like he's just, you know, kind of bereft of hope sometimes? I think those are the moments where he realizes all of the bad decisions he's made, whether that be portal acquisitions, whether that be staff changes, whether that be contract extensions for staff members. I mean, in my mind, maybe I'm projecting, but I think he starts when things show up in games, he in his mind, he's thinking back to, I should have done this, I should have addressed that, I shouldn't have done this, and now it's all manifesting on game day. So I think he does. The guy's a smart guy. He knows football. He knows what it should look like. I think he's made some bad decisions, and now he's got to try to fix it. And I think he will. Like, again, like this is not, listen, man, Jimbo Fisher created a mess and then spent 2 years trying to get out of here to avoid it. I think Mike Norvell wants to fix it. I think he will want to fix it. The question is whether or not he can.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. Always appreciate it, brother. Be well.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, man.
Yeah, take care. That's Ira Schoffel, Warchant.com, my cohort here at Warchant. I do think he sees it too. Because I've had a lot of questions from people that are saying, like, do you think he even real? Yeah, man, he does. But he's not going to go to the press conference and say, I really screwed this up, guys. I butchered this one. I think you can all see quite clearly how bad I screwed this up. And also, by the way, I'm fully aware of how much this kid sucks and how much this kid has regressed and how I'm going to have to fire this coach. He's not going to talk about that. And people, when they want blood, they don't want to hear, well, we didn't execute. But that's what you're going to get. Very rarely does a coach go to the dais while they're fighting to keep their head above water and say, I'm going to fire 5 coaches at the end of this year, maybe more. Every week is another tryout for the guys that remain on this staff. But I've already made a decision to fire 5 of these sorry bitches, and it's coming. And hell's coming with me. And you know what? You guys are all right to be furious. And I promise you, if I had anybody better at this position, and this position, I'd bench these bums. But I don't, because I screwed it up in recruiting, and my staff can't recruit. This is a nightmare. Any questions? They're not going to do it. That's not what you're going to get. You're going to get, well, I thought we had some opportunities in the first half that we didn't take advantage of. Got down there inside the 5, and that's frustrating. Call to play I thought we could execute. We didn't. They got the stop. Fortunately, we were still in the game. We get the ball to start the second half, and It's a 5-point game. You certainly think you've got an opportunity there. Unfortunately, my tight end continues to do things that defy logic. He doesn't just drop passes anymore. He sets them as if it were volleyball for others to come running underneath it. It's a free-for-all for anybody that would like to have an interception in their college career if I throw it to my tight end. He's not going to do that. I'd love it if he did. We all would. It'd be hilarious. It'd be like the old McKay press conferences back when the Bucks were in their infancy. Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Imagine for a moment that you are completely weightless in zero gravity. All of the weight and worry of life is melted away, and you fall into a state of profound relaxation. This is what you'll find at Tallulah CBD Mushrooms THC in Railroad Square when you try out their state-of-the-art floating pods. While you're there, shop for the best quality CBD, mushrooms, THC, and kava products available. Shop Tallulah today with 6 locations in Tallahassee and the Kava Bar Lounge in Bannerman Crossing. Online at TallulahSmokes.com.
Pinch-A-Penny Pools has the largest selection of premium hot springs hot tubs in the city. You might even call it Tallahassee's Hot Tub Hub. 12,000 square feet of hot tubs, with over 50 of them on site. Over 20,000 gallons of tub capacity to choose from. That's 4,620,000 cubic inches of hot tubs. But I digress. So why should you own a hot tub from Pinch-A-Penny Pools and Spas, you might ask? Well, I'll tell you. Number 1, health benefits, of course. The healing powers of soaking in a hot bubbling pool of water go back centuries. Google it. Number 2, Pinch-A-Penny has hot tubs with technology called Freshwater IQ. It gives you real-time chemical readings and tells you exactly what to add to keep the water at peak perfection, with automated analysis to help you control the chlorine and pH. It's hot tubs for dummies. Sign me up. Number 3, they have the best prices, of course. Plus, you get a free accessory and no interest financing. Easy peasy. But if you don't want to take my word for it, check them out yourself. Pinch-A-Penny Pools and Spas. Locally owned, locally operated, and the easiest way to find relaxation at home.
Wooden Glass has been taking care of families since 1945.
Experienced, reliable professionals who offer only the best, like Wooden's top-of-the-line bath enclosures. Eye-catching storefronts are a specialty at Wooden Glass, and they provide precise installation.
Wooden Glass, Tallahassee's first family in glass. Online at woodenglass.com. Call 850-222-5781.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. We're all going through our own fitness journey. We want to get the most out of our time in the gym or with a trainer. We want to eat the right things and do the right things to be in the best shape possible. Why not find out exactly where you're at in that journey by getting a DEXA scan today? It's the most accurate measurement of all body composition methods. It is the gold standard in what is used in clinical diagnosis, the only method that can determine bone density and give a direct measurement of visceral fat. You can do so and save a bunch of money. That's why I'm here, guys. Use Jeff25 as a discount code for 25% off any of the services at DexaFit. It's not just a DEXA scan. They have red light therapy that helps accelerate wound healing, pain relief, muscle recovery, improve circulation, skin health. They'll also give you tips on personalized nutrition with weight management, fitness optimization. These are all things that you want to do to help correct imbalances. Go see our friends at DexaFit and save right now. Use code Jeff25. Discount code Jeff25 for 25% off any services at DexaFit. Science-backed, technology-tracked, and coach-led. Hey, Jeff Cameron here. You've heard me rave about the benefits of Orange Theory Fitness and the proven track record of science-backed interval training. Well, now Orange Theory Fitness has done it again, adding more ways for you to improve your health and look your best. In addition to the always great standard workouts, OTF has added Tread 50 and Strength 50 for those in the mood to just lift for an afternoon or attack those cardio goals for the day. Take the guesswork out of exercise. Make sure you're getting the most out of each and every workout. Orange Theory Fitness, location Midtown Tallahassee and Village Square Boulevard.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Tonight at 7 o'clock, you saw during the break there will be a panel discussion. Unfortunately, I will not be part of that panel discussion Leon High's football game got moved because of the storm, and I will be doing the PA, Tom, for the football game.
You're doing the PA?
I am doing the PA tonight. They asked for a favor, and they wanted to know if I could do that for them, and I said that I would. So I'll be there tonight doing PA for my son's football game.
Cameron on the catch, suck it, 8 yards.
Yeah, if he makes a big play, God forbid he has another one of those, like he had the long touchdown. If he does that, it'll be difficult for me not to.
So, okay.
That's my boy.
How about third down?
He'd be mortified.
How about third downs? What you doing?
Third down and 7.
That's it?
It's a high school game.
What down is it?
It's third down.
Third.
No, I'm not doing that.
No?
No, they're not going to get that. And they're not going to get that's good for another.
Leon Lions.
No, they're going to get a 2nd and 6 catch made by Bryce Cameron. Gain of 4. I'll probably say it with a little bit more gusto, but but yeah, no, they're going to get the
That's another catch by Cameron.
That's all the young man does.
Cameron again. Another first down.
Yeah. Somebody's going to have to cover this Cameron kid, guys. Yeah, no.
You want a guest spot here? It's another big play for the Lions.
That'd be
Touchdown
fun.
Lions.
That would be fun.
It's another big play for the Lions.
You know how close we came to seeing a triple crown? I mean, I don't know that people were paying attention, Tom, but Shohei Ohtani finished 2nd in batting average to Luis Arias. Ohtani had the campaign with 54 home runs and 59 stolen bases, and just shy of also having the highest batting average, would have won the Triple Crown, becoming MLB's first 50-50 player is what he did. And obviously, Major League Baseball has got to be elated that you have Ohtani in the postseason, and he'll join the likes of Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt Jr., Gunnar Henderson. I mean, like, you got superstars. And baseball's been looking to be able to showcase superstars. Obviously, when Ohtani was with the Angels, neither he nor Trout were seeing the postseason. Now you've got the biggest stars seeing the postseason. So good news for Major League Baseball. I saw a number. We'll go back to Florida State here in a second, answer a couple questions in the chat. NFL games are averaging 18.6 million viewers per broadcast. More people are watching the NFL now than at any point since 2015. The product's been awesome in terms of the end of games.
I thought it was finished around 2017, 2018. That's all I heard.
Yeah, no, it's doing all right. You know what else is doing all right? My preseason hefty wager on Jaden Daniels to win the Rookie of the Year, buddy.
Yep. That was a great pick.
And I said it on the air before they even kicked off.
Well, and we agreed on this before the draft. It felt like he was going to be the one.
Yeah, we're going to get this one
You
right.
never know who it's going to be. There have been times when it's begging you, the world, everything that leads into this pick, and you're saying it's got to be X player. And then it's a dude who got picked 10 spots later.
Right.
You know, this is the classic case of where Patrick Mahomes got drafted, and Mitchell Trubisky was drafted ahead of him. Ooh. And was it Baker that went first that year?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Baker's all right, but the best player was, well, come on now. It's not even a comparison.
No.
The best player was taken a lot later.
Yeah, sure. I'm saying Baker's more than all right now.
It felt that Daniels was the guy.
Well, listen, he followed up what was an unbelievable performance on Monday Night Football against Cincinnati, and he threw 4 incomplete passes yesterday. He was 26 of 30, 233 yards and a touchdown. He had 68 yards rushing and 2 more touchdowns. He's completing 82% of his passes through these first 4 games. My man. I mean, this is out of control. Washington's 3-1. They're going to win the division. It's crazy. They're averaging 30.3 points per game. They've scored more points each week than they did the following week. He's getting better every week. It's, by the way, Washington's punter, his name is Tress Way, and a lot of people wouldn't know it. He did punt once this week. It was the first time that the Commanders have had to punt since week 1.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
Yes.
They had to punt a little bit that
They
day.
did.
Yeah.
Daniels also has 218 yards rushing, the second most by a quarterback in the first 4 career games since the Super Bowl era began in 1966 per ESPN research. 82.1% completion percentage. And we're looking at every way imaginable that he is winning games. And he's making difficult down the field throws as well. It's funny. I'm happy because I have the bet on him to win Rookie of the Year. Now he could get hurt and I could lose that bet, whatever. And I hope that's not the case. I just sprinkled some substantial pizza money, a couple pizzas on him to win it because I thought he had a good chance to do so. But he's actually right now, it's crazy to say, the leading candidate for the MVP.
Well, him and Darnold. Yeah.
Right. He and Darnold, like we all thought. That is insane.
Darnold's numbers are out of this world.
Yes. Meanwhile, the Jags are 0-4. They're 1-9 since they won in Houston in November to improve to 8-3 last year. At that time, Trevor Lawrence looked like, and so did the Jags, future contenders to be dominant in the AFC South. And Doug Peterson had revived his career and was going to probably do it again, we all thought. And now Doug Peterson is the odds-on favorite to be fired first this year.
Doug Peterson seems like he's going to go the way that a guy named Doug Peterson would go, which is to a nondescript place.
Super Bowl winning coach Doug Peterson.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, now he just seems like a guy named Doug Peterson rather than a Super Bowl winning coach.
Well, and he's supposed to be an offensive guru, and Jacksonville is 31st in point margin at -49.
Woo.
They're just above the Panthers, who are at -56.
Oh, man.
I thought, I bit the bullet, Tom. I told you over the weekend I bit the bullet, and I ended up getting the NFL Sunday ticket as well as the YouTube TV. I went all in. I love it. You're right. It was the right thing to do. Glad I did it. It was awesome. I watched every game yesterday, and I went back and
they
watched.
They care to sponsor us for all the love we give that particular streaming
It was
service.
pretty incredible. But here's what blew me away, and I wouldn't have seen this had I not flipped over there in the midst of flipping around from game to game to game. But the Jags have the ball with a 3-point lead and 3:54 to play. So they're up 3 with 3:54 to play. They took less than a minute off the clock and gave it back to Houston, who had their timeouts. 54 seconds is all they took off the clock. Up 3 with the ball, 3:54 to play. Buddy, not only did you give them the ball back and not even waste a minute of time, you didn't make them use their timeouts.
Well, okay, so this happened yesterday in Tampa too in the first half.
Yeah,
it's like they wanted to see
forth, who could get,
how many possessions can we get in here in the last 4 minutes.
Well, we were throwing the ball at the end of the game too. I'm like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like, are we determined to stop the clock?
Okay, there's not a lot to complain about with Tampa. Not a lot at all. They laid an egg across the board. They might have been hitting the Mons the night before, last week, before they played Denver.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah,
that explains it better than any film would explain because of what they've done the other 3 weeks.
I will say Denver's defense, this is back-to-back weeks now, is for real.
Yes.
9 points to the Jets yesterday.
And there was constant pressure and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's
that was weird.
It's a tough league to figure right now. But I'm glad that we're 3-1 because if you win this game on Thursday against Atlanta,
that's a big if. It's a good game.
That puts you at 4-0 in the conference, and now you've got conference tiebreakers with Detroit, who is looking up at Minnesota, saying, "Are we really going to finish in second?" I mean, we were in ink as division champions this year.
Well, every year there's a team that everybody thought would be great that's terrible, at least one, and every year there's a team that we were all so sure was terrible that turns out to be very good.
The one complaint I do have about the Bucs, to finish that thought, is when the game's out of reach, we're still playing way too many starters. Guys, I know that the rosters are small, but that's how Winfield got hurt. It was meaningless snaps.
Yeah.
Meaningless snaps. David almost got hurt in meaningless garbage time.
He played a whale of a game yesterday.
It's nice to have him on the field.
100-year-old Levante David out here still whooping ass.
We do not need a Brandon Jenkins situation with our top players. Can we stop it, please?
I agree. One final thing, and P. Simpson, calling you out, buddy. Don't think I didn't know about the big American win. 10th consecutive President's Cup. Get you some, everybody. Get you some, international team. Little 18.5 to 11.5 ass kicking.
It was actually compelling Saturday afternoon.
I loved it. It was
session.
awesome. I enjoyed it. I know you did. Well, President's Cup is good.
We laid the Lee Greenwood on him. That's what we did.
Xander Schauffele birdied 4 consecutive holes on Sunday. Captain Jim Furyk, eyes welling up, was proud. There's my dog. Xander Schauffele out here birdieing every hole, Xander. I was getting
Paul suck at Montreal.
Get you some international A-holes.
Did you guys know that Gary Bettman's going to give another hockey team to Atlanta before he gives you one to Quebec?
You're never going to win a Stanley Cup again. How long's it been, Canada?
I was in high school. Yeah. I'm Jim Furyk.
I am now a 5-time champion on the Champions Tour. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Thomasville police are looking for a person who they say stole multiple guns from a local business during the middle of Hurricane Helene. Security camera footage shows the burglar breaking into cases and going behind counters, grabbing multiple guns. Those with information that could help identify the burglar can contact Thomasville police, or they can provide information on their Crime Watch page. This is a developing story. A man died from gunshot wounds at the Parkway Center shopping plaza on Appalachia Parkway. Around 2:15 a.m. Saturday, Tallahassee police responded to a call about a shooting at the shopping center. When officers arrived, they found one man unresponsive with a gunshot wound. They attempted life-saving efforts, but the man was pronounced dead at the scene. This is an active investigation, and police are searching for suspects in the case. If you have any information, call 850-891-4200, or to remain anonymous, call Crime Stoppers at 850-574-TIPS. This is Rachel Lene with your Roll Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon, with daytime highs approaching 89. Winds out of the southwest, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows dip down to about 72. Highs level out around 86 tomorrow. Cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 89.
What do you need tires on? Your car or truck, tractor or heavy equipment? At Nice Tire and Auto Service, we have tires for all of these needs. And we service your vehicle from air conditioning and computerized alignment to oil changes and everything else under the hood. Call Nice Tire and Auto today at 574-4100. That's 574-4100 for your scheduled maintenance. National accounts welcome at Nice Tire and Auto Service, 4792 Bluntstown Highway, just west of Capitol Circle.
There he is. Haven't seen this guy since, what was it? Oh, shoot. U2 at the Sphere in Las Vegas, baby.
Hey, how about that, man? Wasn't that fun?
Good show. Good show. Everything about it. Nearly perfect. Nearly perfect.
I had everything I could possibly want.
I wanted one thing, couldn't find it, and I looked everywhere. No Cubans.
What do you mean?
There was Cubans.
There was Cubans.
No, I didn't see any Cubans.
Dude, I'm sure there was Cubans there. I mean, you know.
No. I walked around. There was a moment right before the show. I thought, got to find some Cubans. Nothing.
Dude, there's Cubans. There was Cubans. I'm sure there was Cubans.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas.
No Cubans in Vegas.
There's Cubans in Vegas, man.
Eddie, there were no Cubans.
Chef.
The sandwich. There were no Cuban sandwiches. You're Cuban. Of course I know there were Cubans there.
Oh, the sandwich. Yeah, no, there probably wasn't many there in Vegas.
No Cubans.
No, not yet.
Florida, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is sponsored by Shannon Young with Fairway Mortgage Corporation. He's so good, he's even got Jimbo's Christmas tree pre-approved for a new home. Visit loansforknowles.com.
Rolling on. I do think, guys, I see a lot of it. I check during the break sometimes, some of the conversations in the chat, people asking if Mike, is his pride in the way and that kind of stuff. I listen, I do think he'll make changes. It's not going to happen soon enough for you. You're going to be angry. You're going to be frustrated. There's a lot of it. Tom writes, I've been yelling at my TV all season for our offense to speed up, but I want them to slow down on Saturday. Want 3 runs up the middle and a punt. Let's try to keep Clemson under 65 points, please. Clemson minus 15 over 47.5 parlay. I got him for less than the 15 there, buddy. But I was jumping on this early. Are we giving up on 11 as quarterback? C. Black wants to know. Nope. I haven't given up. I haven't given up yet. I think long-term I'm more excited about Kromenhoek, but no, I haven't given up. If chances are low that Coach Mike Norvell can turn it around, why wait? Can you pay $70 million over several years? FSU can't afford to wait. UM is winning and UF is getting a new coach. This could be a decade setback. Probably the thing that I'm angriest about is that you somehow ceded the state to the Canes, and you were sitting in the catbird seat. You had it made. You had done the hard work of building this back up. The timing couldn't be better. You were beating Miami, beating Florida. Florida was down. They were continuing to spiral. You had emerged as the team in the state to beat by far. Well, it wasn't close. You were the only team in the state of the big three that was doing anything of note, and squandered this awesome opportunity. Miami, we'll see if they sustain it, but they have recruited better than you. And yeah, this year they went out and got the cherry on top for Cam Ward, and now Cam will not be there next year. So we'll see what they do at quarterback, and he is a big difference maker, a huge difference maker. By the way, so let me comment really quickly on that play, because people have asked and I didn't answer it, regarding the Virginia Tech Miami game and how that ended.
There was another clinic in clock management and resource management.
Whew,
My
Virginia
God.
Tech's coach just butchering the end of that game.
First half, too.
Yeah, wasn't that something? I mean, I was in shock watching that play out the way that it did.
You call a timeout with 25 seconds to go to kick a 50-yard field goal, and then you squib it?
Yeah,
And, I was thinking that maybe it was an injury timeout and it was assessed, but I don't think they do that in the first half. So he called a timeout on his own. Like, it would have been smart for Miami to do that in that situation, because then also you lessen the risk of them going for it on fourth down, because there's not much of a risk associated with it. Holy God, Virginia Tech.
Yeah, they butchered that, and then as it turns out, there you are in that position.
Yeah.
And you eschew the other field goal by the fake, which really, obviously didn't work out there. Would have only needed a chip shot field goal at the end.
I'm the guy who likes to get to 17, but not in that moment. You can't have that interception
and then not have it
and
count
then
for
not
nothing.
come away with
Yeah,
points. You have to.
Yeah. But here's what I thought was the more interesting discussion. First of all, on the play itself, okay, everybody's got an opinion about that. I didn't originally think it was a catch at all. But here's what I know about the way those rules work. The fact that the official on the field called it a touchdown after quite a bit of a delay, the fact that he called it a touchdown meant that you had to go to the booth and find irrefutable evidence that it wasn't, and you can't on that replay. You can't see the ball. I mean, they looked at it a million different ways. You don't really see it until after they've been laying there for a second, and then the hands start jostling and so forth. So the call, in my estimation, was wrong originally in that I would have called it incomplete. But once you've called it a touchdown, you have to leave it as a touchdown. And today we're talking about Miami having been screwed perhaps by the field call, but not the replay. But this is amazing what they did. But I want to fast forward this, because I'm not interested in having the debate about catch, no catch. They said this was their reasoning. They came out later in the dead of night and gave the reason for the overturn. And they said that it was a simultaneous catch, a simultaneous possession, simultaneous catch, and that the Miami player was laying out of bounds, and therefore it's incomplete. No, that's not how that rule works. They screwed this up. Simultaneous possession goes to the offensive player. That's first part of the rule. The offensive player was in bounds. That's a touchdown if you're going to go by the letter of the law. If you're going to say simultaneous possession, and simultaneous possession goes to the offensive player and he is in bounds, no.
Right. What you have to say is before possession was simultaneously established, an out-of-bounds player was touching the ball, therefore rendering the play dead and incomplete. Before possession was achieved.
You would have to say that, but that's not what they said.
That's not. You're correct. No, you would have to. You didn't get to the point of possession because a player out of bounds was touching the ball. That's the way you'd have to explain it in order for that to work, and that might be the case.
Well, I don't think you can nullify the play. They screwed that up. But let me just say this:
like, in truth, I believe it's not a catch. I believe it's incomplete.
Right.
But by rule, they do this all the time too. But go ahead.
Well, let me just say this: the ACC, and this is an odd thing to say because I hate Miami, and I would have laughed had that game ended the way that it looked like it might have for a second. This is the first instance in which the ACC made a business decision. Like, there you go. You finally did the thing that we've been telling you to do all this time. When your best team, or the team that has the best chance to make the playoff, let's say, or be the highest ranked team is in a situation where it could go either way. Let's help out the best team. Let's do what you're supposed to do
because
here.
they're finally carrying weight for the first time in 20 years.
Right.
We've been waiting for this moment.
Oh, correct. No,
Did anybody else ever do anything for us in the last 20 years?
It's crazy, right? I've said it over and over again.
Schmucks.
But they never do it. They never, they made, I kind of think they made it up. I kind of feel like they were sitting, because that took forever. I kind of feel like they were in Charlotte going, guys, we know he didn't catch that, right? Yeah, but Bob called it a touchdown. I know, and I'm furious with Bob right now because now I don't know how we undo this mess, but this can't happen. I mean, Virginia Tech is going nowhere, guys. They lost to Vanderbilt. We kind of need this to be a Miami win, but Bob's over here calling simultaneous and a touchdown. What are we going to do? Just overturn it. Well, just overturn it. We'll figure out a statement. We'll release it at 1 o'clock in the morning. Nobody will be the wiser. They'll be on to Saturday's games, and let's just move on, Big River. I think you're right, Keith. I know I am. Do it, John. Send it in right now. Incomplete pass. Now let's get the hell out of Dodge. And that's what they did. And you know what? It's what they should have done because they knew it's you and me. We always joke about what would happen if you and I were in the booth. We'd be in the booth, and I'd be like, can you believe this, Tom? We're getting screwed here. That's not a catch. But he called it a catch. And you know and I know that that's not a catch. What are we going to do here? Are we going to follow the rules or are we going to fix a wrong? What are we going to do?
There's selective interpretation all the time. My favorite one is the spot of a football. They will make determinations on fact of placement of the ball, physical placement of the ball without a straight down the line look. Like they'll give you broke the plane or didn't break the plane without piecing things together. They'll have imperfect. It's usually on a broken play or an explosive because they're not set up for a goal to go. So you can't see that. They'll do that with first downs versus non-first downs. They don't have proof.
No.
In so many of these situations, the burden by which they set for themselves, the threshold that they set for themselves is you have to have indisputable video evidence. If my camera is placed on the 5-yard line and you're asking me to make a judgment with a replay from the 5-yard line about whether the ball is hovering over the line or not, do you know how wrong that perspective is?
Correct.
Especially with a zoom lens and how much of a trick it can play on your mind. They do this all the time. So it doesn't surprise me that they, again, ignored the threshold by which they set the standard for replay, which is, first of all, it used to be there's a time limit. This was originally the NFL's plan. Was it 90 seconds? It was something like that.
Yeah, there was some sort of,
If the clock runs out and you don't have a decision, it stands.
It stands. We were just going to move on.
They've abandoned that a long time ago, and they never called attention to it, but they'll wait 5 minutes if they need to. They don't care.
I got to give Sean McDonough a lot of credit. Did you hear him in the what game was he doing? Was he doing the Bama game?
No, I'm sure the A-team did Bama.
Yeah, who did? Sean McDonough was doing a game, and he made me laugh. They were like, well, it's got to be indisputable evidence, Sean. The color analyst said that. Sean goes, no, it doesn't. Did you see the end of the Miami Virginia Tech game last night? He said it in the booth. I was like, well, there you go. That's right, Sean. That is exactly. He was like pissed because his analyst goes, well, it's got to be. I think it was Greg McElroy was like, it's got to be indisputable evidence. And he turned around. No, it doesn't. Did you see the end of that Virginia Tech Miami game last night?
McElroy, does anything mean anything? Just look at the two stances you took last year on who should be ranked where. All it means is what they want it to mean. And who's they?
Or what they need it to mean.
What they need it to mean.
Yeah.
Who's they? Let's not ask questions, Greg. 2nd and 6.
Brandon writes, huge fan from Texas, been to tons of games, even this recent SMU game, unfortunately. Fiance bought a trip to Tally for my birthday. You guessed it. It's this weekend. Y'all let me know what else to see. Well, come on by Friday, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Appalachia Parkway, and I'll salute you and your fiance, and we'll have a cold beer and drink to terrible losses, because that's what's coming on Saturday. Noel, Kev, Clemson, remember, we are in this lawsuit against the ACC together. We are basically blood brothers. You will take it easy. Yeah. No, Kev, you're right, buddy. That's a jog out in the middle of the field before the game. What's up, Dabo? I know we've had our differences. but you can see what I'm dealing with here. Tough time.
Dabo, I got to tell you, I'm looking out through these warm-ups, and I really feel like this is a program made in God's name, image, and likeness. How do you do it? I mean, I can feel it. I can feel it on this
sense
field.
it.
This is something else, Dabo. How did you achieve this?
We should speak of the passages in the Bible that touch on mercy. I sat 2 rows up from the team Saturday night, writes Ryan, and this team is checked the F out.
Dabo, we need to be a little bit more New Testament today, okay? Let's not do the fire and brimstone Old Testament stuff.
We don't need to be turning people into stone. Let's just...
I am not Lot's wife. I am not a pillar of salt, dog.
Let's not do this. Jeff, have you heard anything about kids showing up late or not showing up at all to workouts? Someone was saying they know somebody on the team, and the player said that. Hopefully that's just a rumor. I think that is just a rumor. They got a lot of problems. There's a lot of mistakes being made. There's a lot of issues to discuss, and we have. But I don't know of any, just kids not showing up to workouts and meetings. Doesn't mean it's not happening, and I'm sure I'll find out about it if it is. But as of right now, I've not heard that definitively.
This is when people start to let these things slip.
Oh yeah. This is where everything begins.
It's not my fault. Fire him.
Final hour, fourth coming. Stay with.
No matter how busy life gets, your home is the place where your family and friends show you they care and celebrate with you. That's why the professionals at Barano Heating and Air Conditioning always make sure your home is comfortable. Just like those who matter to you most, Barano will always be there for you.
This is Tyler from Barano Heating and Air. Now you can schedule an appointment, purchase or renew your service agreement, or pay your bill from your mobile device. Any day, anytime, anywhere. When you turn to the experts at Carrier and Barano Heating and Air. Online at baranoac.com.
Florida license number CAC 1816186.
Your body is a masterpiece designed to heal itself from within. Learn how to maximize your health by tuning in to Phenomenal Health with me, Dr. Ryan Finn. Saturdays at 2:30. Experience true health today and call Finn Chiropractic at 386-7700.
This month, new Titan trucks have 0% financing for 60 months. Plus, you get $5,000 off. It's the best truck deal with the best warranty in America. Or get into a brand new Nissan Sentra starting at $420 a month with no money down. Only at Kraft Nissan Tallahassee.
This is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. Sellers, are you stuck between wanting to sell your home and waiting for rates to fall? Are you worried about the contingency of having to sell your home? What if you didn't have to? With a 2-1 rate buy down, you can lock in a lower interest rate for the first 2 years of your mortgage and get the home you want now, all while having a higher chance to buy that next home with the contingency of selling yours. If you wait for rates to fall, you risk more competition, sellers less likely to wait, and paying more for that next property. If you're stuck, we need to talk. Give me a call at 954-369-6171. Again, this is Shannon Young with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. That's 954-369-6171. And don't forget, for every loan we close for our fellow Noles, I will personally donate $250 to the Battle's End.
Equal housing rent. NMLS number 373031.
What will the Noles do to follow up an unconquered 2023? Warchant.com, the market leader in FSU football and sports coverage, is the place to find out. Join the largest FSU fan community and talk Seminoles sports in Warchant's Travel Council and premium recruiting message board forums. Enjoy cutting-edge team coverage led by managing editor Ira Schoffel and lead writer Corey Clark, and inside scoops on the transfer portal and recruiting classes with Michael Langston and Matt Lassere. Backed by the best national recruiting network in On3, there's no debate. Warchant.com's your ultimate Seminole sports source. Sign up today.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Crescent, Tallahassee. Your sports action update on Real Talk 93.3 with all the latest odds from Vegas. Brought to you by Palmar's Pawn, Gun and Gold. More than you might expect with 2 great locations in Tallahassee.
Texans over the Jaguars 24-20 yesterday at NRG Stadium in Houston, but the Jaguars did cover as 5.5-point road dogs but they are 0-4. They opened 2.5-point favorites at home this week against the Colts, 45.5 the total. Anthony Richardson knocked out of the Colts win over the Steelers 27-24 yesterday. A Monday Night Football doubleheader today. Lions laying 4.5 at home with the Seahawks. Dolphins a 2.5-point home favorite against the Titans. Braves and Mets play a doubleheader to close out Major League Baseball's regular season today. Braves another 55 favorite in game one of the doubleheader. They need a win to advance to the postseason. Bundle and save with Progressive. Progressive.com. For more sports betting news and information, go to VSIN.com. Mike Sennett, Real Talk 93.3.
The holidays are coming, and Lowe's is here to help you get ready. Right now, get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, save an additional $75 on select cooking appliances, $899 or more. And get even more of an interior refresh with up to 40% off select vanities and free delivery. Because Lowe's knows holiday hosting. Valid through 10/16. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. Appliance savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details.
Progressive presents Renters MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Emily Neal's 70-inch TV. Because after watching her second-grade students yell at each other for hours, there's nothing Emily enjoys more than watching super rich housewives also yell at each other. Why? Because those women are not her responsibility. And that's why her TV is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Time to head out on our annual guys fishing trip. Wait, where's Jimmy? He just texted me saying he has to swing by his storage unit to get a couple of things. And now there's a truck blocking him in and he won't be here for another hour.
That wouldn't have happened if he had just called Southeast Portable Buildings that got a unit right on his property.
I love mine. I have so much more space in my garage. Now I can finally park my truck in there.
Give them a call today, 850-580-6400. That's 850-580-6400, or visit them online for all their options at southeastportablebuildings.com.
T-Park Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Park, T-ParkConstruction.com. We conquer all creeks. We fix those darn leaks. Call 850-766-134. T-Park Enterprises, roofing and construction services. T-Park, T-ParkConstruction.com.
CCC 1331204. Football season is here. Do you have your picks in on Sleeper? Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and you could win up to 100 times your money. For new users, Sleeper will even match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. Just download the Sleeper app today and use code MONDAY for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code MONDAY. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
From Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Greatly appreciate you doing that. And if you are watching on Warchant TV, YouTube, we appreciate you doing that as well. Yeah, the clip that we have for you here that's kind of fun is there is some changes. There are some changes, I should say, on the depth chart. From the standpoint of the released depth chart, there's some oars added in there, Tommy.
Yeah,
some,
more names in bold, co-starters, and
yeah.
3 young players, one at quarterback, one at tight end, and one on the offensive line.
So Mike was asked about it. I don't think he loves being asked about the depth chart, but here's a video response, and we'll react to that.
The change on the depth chart with the co-starters at quarterback, is that just because of the uncertainty about DJ's status, or is there a world where a change is made kind of independent of injury, even if DJ was good to go?
Well, I mean, obviously DJ, it's like one of those, like, I really don't care about a depth chart, to be honest with you, right? Like, it really means nothing. And so to put a status like DJ didn't finish the game because he couldn't finish the game. Now, I've said that I was going to put Brock in at that moment too, but obviously right now there is a little bit of uncertainty of status. We'll see what that looks like as the week goes on, but it doesn't really matter what I put on depth chart.
Well, then don't change it. Don't change it each week then. What's the point? If you're going to add people and take people away and put other people in bold type or put an or there, if it doesn't mean anything and doesn't matter, then don't change it. Don't mess with it in any way. Unless you have to because somebody's out for the year or, a guy, you have a starter who goes out, gets hurt, going to miss the rest of the season, and the backup is now going to be in. Oh, I get it. You'd have to change that out. Other than that, what would be the point?
Something's wrong there. Did they release something that they weren't supposed to?
You're reading that the way I'm reading that. I'm reading that as, and he was caught off guard and angered by the fact that was listed the way that it was, and that he didn't either approve that or tell somebody that, and they just on their own volition wrote that in or typed that up. I don't know that to be the case. I have no idea how it happened.
No, because otherwise something is not right about that. And again, it's a small thing. It's tedious in the grand scheme. Like, he makes a good point there that it's tedious, but he's the head coach who has to sign off on all of those things. And depth charts, whether you like them or you think they're stupid, clearly he is leaning that way right now, thinking they're stupid. Sometimes they can signal a reward to a player and give material confidence to a player. Like, if Andre Otto, who is on this list as a co-starter now, which is awesome, if he sees that depth chart, man, he feels a sense of pride about that. I would think Landon Thomas feels a sense of importance this week because he is listed as a co-starter at tight end, coming off of the weekend and catching a touchdown pass, and then he sees that he's rewarded for that. The depth chart does mean something.
I agree that it does. And I don't think he thinks it doesn't mean anything. He wanted to not have to answer the question. He wanted to move on. He felt, my opinion, he felt a little caught off guard. He didn't, I don't think he realized that's the way that it was listed. And so, this is what's going to happen here. Again, I'm going to do this. I do this all the time, all right? Any coach or player for that matter, in a situation that goes south, the things that most people in the fan base or most people around the program were able to ignore because wins were bountiful. Things are going well. They always say wins are the best deodorant, right? There's not a human being on the planet, not your husband, not your wife, not your brother, sister, mother, father, people that are extremely close to you, best friend. Every one of us has a set of behaviors and mannerisms or quirks about us that in some way annoys people who love us dearly. Maybe not annoys us in that we hyper-focus on it, but it could be the dumbest, littlest thing. The way that somebody ties their shoe, the way that somebody pronounces a word, the way that somebody, whatever it is.
Find a way to bash the cereal bowl with a spoon with every movement.
Whatever it is.
I mean,
is it really necessary?
A little bit of grace as we eat cereal, please.
Yeah. So, okay. Bing, bing. We all have it.
Every bite.
People we dearly love. I would literally die for my children. I love them that much. They both have some really annoying habits that some of which we work on and some are just who they are. Quirks, Piccadillys, little things, whatever. Sometimes they're even endearing.
Where it's the good stuff.
Yeah, there you go. Right? Sometimes they're even endearing. You're like, okay, I'm never going to change that. And you know what? That makes them them. So I'm no longer annoyed. I just find it amusing and or funny, and in some cases absurd. But there it is. All right, that's who they are. That's who they are. All right. Well, why do I say any of that? Because every coach has those same qualities. But when you're kicking ass, if you're winning a lot of games, every little thing does not get scrutinized and vetted to the nth degree and enlarged and focused on because you're too busy winning. You're too busy talking about all that ass kicking that's going on. And so when he stutter F's his way through one of these pressers or he races the defensive lineman to start a practice, none of that matters to you when they're kicking ass. It doesn't bother you in any way. When he contradicts himself in some capacity, like here, it doesn't really matter to you because they're winning. When you start losing, all those little things that kind of stood out to you as a mild irritant really become magnified and piss you off. You're like, really? We got to race somebody again today, do we? We're 1-4. We're still out here racing people I see. Why don't we worry a little bit less about who wins this race against a bunch of fat asses and figures out how we can tackle with those fat asses instead of racing, huh, Mike? So this is what happens.
How about racing to 20 points?
How about we race to 300 yards of offense at some point? That's the race I want to win. So this is what's going to happen. And then it'll be like, you're going to get everybody, oh, it's always kind of pissed me off when he does that. Now it really pisses you off when he does it. This is it. This is what happens. And it's sad, but these are things that really nobody brought up or bothered them. But now it's, I wish he'd stop doing that. And another thing.
Oh, and another thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's all there.
Well, the problem is, you're right. When they call the 4th and goal run, and you see that thing has no chance, once the ball is snapped, you're like, well, this has to be a pop pass, and you're like, oh God, he's not stopping.
No, he's actually trying to run him. He's trying to run him.
He's trying to score. He's not gonna. Oh, they've caved in this side. I mean, it reminded me immediately of the time he called the quarterback run for Mackenzie Milton on the road at Wake Forest.
Man, that
Remember
one was a toughie. You had a kid who was crippled.
You know what we could do? Like, roll up your sleeve, sniffle. Here's what we could do.
I was like, what in the world?
We're going to call it one-legged Skippy.
They're going to snap his other leg.
Mackenzie, one-legged Skippy. I don't want to run it, coach. Do it. They'll never see it coming. But your mind goes to those other places. Jacksonville State wasn't brought up very often last year, but after Georgia Tech, after Boston College, after Memphis, today.
No, it's true, though. It's all of these little personality quirks and things like that that didn't really bother anybody and wasn't part of the larger conversation. They all now, I'm about tired of hearing all that nonsense. These non sequiturs and the bouncing all around and what are we doing out here? Yeah, it's like we ignore. You remember trying to transcribe a Jimbo Fisher press conference? Oh.
Man,
that was the most ridiculous thing ever. I'll tell you something else too.
No. And before you uttered a word, whatever that noise was, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem was in those days I was using a true voice recorder.
Yeah.
And you had slow down. There was a way to go 0.5x.
Yeah.
But it still didn't make sense of the words. They were still connected through the slowdown process.
I would crack up. I'm just like, who's the poor bastard having to type this out?
There were a couple of times where he would stop and exhale because he needed to breathe.
And
there's a time, and man,
and I the thing, and and that's the thing. What the hell are you talking about? I remember one time there was, and you're just like, what? The times in which we do things. And, and that's just the way it goes.
Kerwin, I voted for that, didn't I?
Didn't we have him at number 3, right? That's just the way, it's changed in the things that we do. But it's, it's just, guys, I don't. You're just like, what are you talking about? This isn't even over and over again. I would listen to him when I would interview on Sundays, and I'd be like, hey, Coach, how are you? Oh, it's okay. We're doing all right. We're doing, I was just looking. Let me tell you, I'm eating an apple before we start. I want you to know that I should have you. That's the thing. We just got to block it up. What the hell? Okay, you about ready to go? Yeah, go ahead. We're ready. We're good. Oh, real quick, Jim, did you see the Memphis game? I did. Yeah. That was a good game right there. I thought they should have gone for 2 at the end of the half, don't you think, Coach? It was fun. We would have that, but yeah, I would have gone for 2 there too. Yeah. They screw it up all the time. You see it all over college football. It's crazy. That's just, that's just the way in which we live. And
he used to do that with Deckerhoff too.
Like just a society.
He would tune out Deckerhoff and answer whatever question he wanted to answer. Like the coach's report, because he used to run those during the day.
Yeah.
Coach, you have to be very proud of your players. And he go, it did. That's why, and you're like, wait a minute, it did? He asked you if you're proud of your players.
Anyway, yeah.
It did.
We really, and the thing, we've been saying, and it's true.
Coach, that was an awfully big win on the road. We were. I thought we were pretty good. What?
You think Morlock plays?
Ooh. Mike's response today that I didn't keep it. I almost made a Jimbo noise myself. But the question after that depth chart doesn't matter thing is actually funny. The next reporter goes, I have a depth chart question myself about tight end. And he goes, we need to be better there. And I believe Kyle can do it, but he kind of stared off in the distance as he said that. That stuff makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, no,
it's like watching Lee Westwood. I joke about it because it makes me feel uncomfortable watching him over a 3-footer to secure a half point for the Euros. I need him to miss it. I want him to miss it. I don't even need or want because I know he's going to miss it. But then you watch him miss it, and you hate it because that's the loneliest feeling in the world. But my God, that's what broke us. What set us up to be broken was 4th and goal. What actually broke us was the ball off the chest plate into the hands of the defender. That was it.
There's a part of, listen, I've been incensed by the way this has gone for Morlock. He's played poorly. There's no getting around that. We talk about the elements of the team that are working. There aren't many that are working. The most disappointing aspects of a certain part of this team. I got to be honest with you. I'm not telling you that we thought Morlock was going to be a first-round pick as a tight end, but certainly this was a guy that had worked very, very hard, had gotten bigger, had gotten stronger because he knew he was not a good blocker at all last year, knew he needed to improve that element of his game, put in the time, got bigger, was really giving everything he could that you could see in practice to try to get better at it. I was never worried about him catching the football. Now that is something that I'm telling you, you can talk to the coaches, you can talk to Chris Thompson, you can go they'll tell you he was catching the football. We know it. We saw it in practice. He caught everything to the point that Mike would bring up how much better he was as a receiver and that they were working on the block and stuff. And then he knew to watch a guy lose confidence and to have this fall off to a point where it's unrecognizable. I mean, he's a shell of himself now. It is a disservice to put him out there. It's a disservice to your team, and it's a disservice to him. Because this isn't – I get it. You'd like to let kids work through things, but you're barely able to be in these games at all. You cannot have these kinds of drops. They're killing you.
Well, and it's not like he's driving dudes back into the second level when he's blocking. Nobody blocks at that level.
No,
which is wild.
And it's so aggravating to watch. But I do hate it for him, and I will just tell you that there's no reason to put him back out there. Maybe later in the year against a lesser opponent and you get up big or something, well, God forbid, or you're down big.
Well, and that might graduate you to an opportunity again in a bigger moment. But yeah, it has to. He can't be starting right now.
He can't be out there against
for his
Clemson.
own sake.
No. I mean, you know how dumbed up he has to be right now. We've watched things like this play out. It's awful.
The baseball analogy is you let him sit in the dugout and watch a game. He needs a day off. Let him watch the game for a day. Let him calm down. They do it in hockey. They say let him watch in the press box.
Yeah.
They put their suit on, give them a break, let the world slow down because clearly they're carrying the burden week to week.
It's tough. And watching that, and that play was crippling the other night. I mean, as soon as it happened.
Well, it's open again.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as it happened, I think everybody in this fan base knew, well, there we go. We're done. And that is a problem watching this team in general, is there's a fatalistic aspect of all of this. And this is what happens with bad teams. We see it so often. Teams begin to just fall off a cliff, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and that begets losing, which begets more losing, which begets more. All of that stuff. You see it all the time. By the way, the Mets have come roaring back to tie the game against the Braves.
Hey.
It is now 3-3 in the top of the 8th.
Dude.
So this game is good. This is a good game, Tom, just so you know.
And the time and
the things that we do and we
know,
gas. Yeah.
It's like I always say. Man, you always say a lot of different things. Do you realize that?
Oh, man. Yeah. It's by the way, the Lions tonight are going to wear all black from what I read. Why? Stop doing dumb things like that. That's in no way part of your color scheme. And oh, by the way, those Lion uniforms, that silver, when done right, is sweet. There's no reason to do that. Stop doing that.
That's another team that their current uniforms, they're like in the Dolphins class to me. Their current uniforms are fine, but their older ones that they wear on Thanksgiving are elite.
Yeah.
You just slap the lion. Give me the Barry Sanders. Give me the Barry Sanders uniforms, or slap the lion on the helmet and then go to the minimalistic Honolulu blue with the silver numbers.
Oh, that's nice.
It's gorgeous.
See the Chargers yesterday?
No, but I'm sure they were.
Always great.
Did they go to the royal blue yesterday?
No, they had the powder, but it was
powder,
the yellow pants too. It was a good look.
Both of their colors of blue are just
Perfect.
gorgeous. The royal, I mean, they really shouldn't be allowed to have both of those colors because they're too nice. They got to give one of them to somebody else. And we got to improve somebody else's look.
Go and sign up with my friends at Tried and True. Doing it right. Saving businesses in this town a lot of money. They are prepared to help you make a lot of money as well. Get to choose between a lot of different kinds of offers. They got the free video menu, or ad board as it's called. Talked about that. You want to be a Tried and True client, boost your business. Talk about what it is you do. Have this ad board set up by them for free. If you're a car dealership and you've got a waiting room or anything of the sort, same thing goes for a bar, a restaurant, any of those things. Reach out to my guys. They do such a good job. And a lot of places here locally have jumped on board. I'm so glad this is working because these are good, hardworking guys, honest, and they're good at what they do. And some of the businesses locally have jumped on in now. Call Don or Joe or Rusty, 844-463-6653. That's 844-I'm4Noel. And tell them you want that Jeff Cameron special, buddy. You get a huge steak. It's amazing. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV, Mets 4, Braves 3 in the 8th.
It's summertime in Tallahassee, and it's going to get hot. The last thing you want to do is your own yard work, so call the Lawn Johns instead. Here's what Linda had to say after her lawn service.
The Lawn Johns transformed my yard. Mark had excellent landscaping ideas and recommendations for the best plants for certain areas. The plan was executed efficiently, and now the yard is beautiful and full of color and variety.
Call the Lawn Johns today for all your lawn care and landscaping at 322-2567, or request a free quote online at thelawnjohns.com.
Maddie, did you hear Grassroots Coffee is now the official coffee of FSU's NIL collective, The Battle's End?
Yes, I've heard tons of people talking about it and the new coffee, Battle's End Blend.
Yeah, every time you buy a bag of Battle's End Blend specialty coffee, you help support FSU athletes and help our Noles be more competitive.
Every time I buy a bag?
Anytime anyone buys a bag, retail or wholesale for business. Just imagine how much impact we can have if every time FSU alumni and fans take a sip of coffee, FSU athletes benefit.
Just go to grassrootscoffee.com, select Battles and Blend and the size and grind setting you want. And if you have a coffee shop, restaurant, or even a business that has coffee in the break room, you can buy it wholesale at Grassroots Wholesale Portal, grassrootscoffeeroasters.com.
Locally owned, locally roasted, locally loved, and committed to our Noles. Grassroots Coffee.
So good.
This is Thomas Dickens from the Law Office of Marie Maddox. I'm a combat veteran and a former JAG. I've fought for our country, and now I fight to get you your back wages. If your boss has ever shorted your paycheck or withheld your overtime, you need to call me now. 850-383-4800. 850-383-4800. Or find us online at maddoxlaw.com. Offices in Tallahassee.
Hey man, if you heard about Pentalpit Jewelry is the best in town. Rings, diamonds, earrings, bracelets, and more. Pentalpit Jewelry.
When was the last time you randomly did something nice for someone that means a lot to you? Now, I say this every day at the end of my show for everybody to be a better person today than you were yesterday. Well, one way to do that is to drop into Pentalpit and get a gift for someone who deserves it. It'll brighten their day, their week, maybe even their year. You don't have to wait for a holiday or special occasion, so don't wait to go check out a true local gem, serving Tallahassee since 1988. Now sing along with me, and I'll see you at Pentalpit.
Moments like hearing my cat purr good morning mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib. Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
The Jeff Cameron Show is sponsored by Shannon Young with Fairway Mortgage Corporation. He's so good, he's even got Jimbo's Christmas tree pre-approved for a new home. Visit loansforknowles.com.
Come on now, R. Wilmer. Jeff already's got the next coach picked out. Forget who he wants. Have to look at a week or two ago to find out, but claims he supports Mike. It's a conspiracy. I'm out to get Mike. How about I get asked a question that if we moved on from Mike, who would I want, and I answer it? Why don't we just state it that way, because that's what happened. Now, here's what I'll tell you, and I have said it again, that I have a coach ready for the coach that's in place at all times. And every good athletic director should as well. My coach could win 57 games in a row, and I'd have a guy in my back pocket in case the wheels come flying off and we need to make a turn. That's how it works.
This is where the big picture discussion, it gets interesting. And you're talking about empire building or rebuilding on the fly. This is about to be so expensive.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
This is about to be so expensive. You name the where the money's going to go, and the answer is yes. Stadium, football facility, NIL, coaching buyouts, coaching hires.
So I think you got to start very, very.
You need a lot of money here.
You can't go macro. You got to go micro, and you got to say, where would we immediately need? So, okay, let's just assume for a second that Mike understands he's got to make changes to his staff. So you're going to have to pony up for that, all right? You're going to have to pay off the rest of their deals, and then you're going to have to go get some assistants that you like, whomever that might be.
I think this is why we would work through this crisis well together, because you're thinking on the ground about the specific hires I need. I'm saying, all right, well, I've got to go talk to bankers or private equity
sure,
and figure out how we're going to get the money for this, or how we're going to move the money around in the current athletic department budget. We just added another sport. Jeez. But I'm going to have to find out where I can get the money from. You go get me the name. I'll go get you the money, but that's what they've got to be doing right now.
Yeah. And listen, I will repeat myself here. I really want Mike to get this worked out. I like Mike. I do. My liking Mike has nothing to do with anything, though. And again, to be clear, I don't believe that you win 19 games in a row and get this turned around and win 10 and then follow it up with 13 by not knowing how to coach. But there are good coaches all over the country who, for whatever reason, lose their way and lose their job. It could be happening right now to Mike. We could be watching the unraveling of a coach who did a great job in getting this flipped. And people argue about the reasons for all of those things. I'm disinterested. I don't really care. I know what I'm watching right now. So do you. We all can see this, and we understand that he's up against it. That's a fact. That's all there is to it.
Here's an uncomfortable question if you're in the room. with Mike, and you both come to the agreement that changes need to be made. Now, where do you go from there? Do you let him submit the list? Do you say, well, you give me a list and we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to independently verify what we want to do? That's the uncomfortable. Do you trust him to give you the names? Or do you say, well, yes, you give us your list, and then we're going to bring our list to the, because as a coach, that is insulting on a lot of levels, but it's also, you've gotten me to a point where I'm insulted. We're 1-4 after we gave you a raise.
Yeah, by the way, with each passing loss, the control over those decisions gets relinquished for the coach. The more that the hits keep coming, you're getting blown out in games against your rival. You've won a grand total, say, of 3 games this year. You're not really able to walk in and bully anybody who wants you to make radical changes on your roster at this point. I mean, on your coaching staff at that point.
But it's still, you have to have that conflict in order to be able to push past.
Well,
and that's what would you do? Would you say, well, you give me a list, Mike. Now, you've had a good track record of getting guys hired away, but none of these guys are. So let me see what ballpark you're navigating in and see if it matches what we think.
This is fascinating for a lot of reasons, because I'd love to know what, let's say, the administration and those in a position to have this conversation, say the athletic director, right? Michael Alford. So what does he see as the problem? What does he view as the problem? Because that's going to dictate what kind of conversation we have.
And he doesn't have a football background.
Right.
So does he have to hire an outside consulting?
Well, I would just say this. Yes, he doesn't have a football background in the sense that he coached on the field, but my man's been in athletics his whole life. He played college athletics. He worked for the Dallas Cowboys. He worked for Alabama. I mean, he's been around.
Sure. I got you. He's been in important conversations, but it's mostly in sales. My point would be.
But he's seen it done right. He's watched it.
And he could probably conduct a good interview.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I'm saying, like, okay, now we're getting down to the who technically could help us on the recruiting front versus schematically.
This is the biggest part of it, because if you think that, look, Mike's got to change the staff for a variety of reasons, let's start with recruiting. Let's say we just don't have any dynamic recruiters of the prep ranks, of the high school ranks, okay? We don't have any dynamic recruiters out of high school. So how many people are we going to let go? How many people are we going to bring in? Of that answer, let's say it's 4. All right. So of the 4, Mike, how many do you need to have be elite recruiters? And how many can just be technical, really good, coaching the game? You know, how many? Because the answer to that is going to dictate where we go from here about any list. What if I told you that I wanted Brad White, the defensive coordinator for Kentucky? He's done a really good job. Kentucky's physical. They overachieve most years. He also coordinates their linebackers. He's done a good job. Yeah.
I'd say at that moment that you brought that to the table, you're compromised. So give me somebody else.
No, I'm the athletic director saying that I really, okay. I think Brad.
You're not you. You're the athletic director.
I'm the athletic director.
You had to throw linebackers in there, didn't you?
Of note, that's what he does. Well, if you want, his brother Mike Stoops is the inside linebackers coach at Kentucky. You can go grab him, I suppose. But anyhow, the point is, I'm using that as an example because Kentucky plays pretty good defense. They're physical. We just watched him go on the road and beat Ole Miss and hold down that Ole Miss offense, and he did a great job against Georgia, obviously. I mean, we just got done watching, right, all of that. So I throw him in the mix, and I don't know how he is as a recruiter, and there are people who do that for a living. That's what they do. They break down who's an elite recruiter, who isn't. So I need all the information I can get, but I just know that technically speaking, my man is really, really good.
So it's another expense. You're bringing in a third party to help govern your half of the decision.
I'd like to know. I mean, there's a part of me that certainly needs to know what Mike is looking to do here. It can't just be that he's bringing in guys that, you know, he thinks from an X's and O's standpoint get the job done, but can't recruit. I'm not doing that. That's what we just did.
You're saying group of 5 guys.
Maybe.
We ain't doing that.
We're not doing that.
Yeah. The other problem here, though, is you have to, as the athletic director, have a separate conversation with them than their conversation with the head coach.
Yeah.
Because their first question is, well, are you going to keep him if we have a bad year next year? Because why would I come here for one season?
This is where all of the expenses become so much more than they needed to be before this debacle. You're going to, I said it in the first hour, you're going to have to overpay for guys on your roster that you want to keep. You're going to have to overpay for recruits to try to get this roster flipped in the areas that are weakest. So right now, you're not a very desirable place to come play when you have options. If you're a great player out of high school and you've been offered by Texas, you've been offered by Georgia, you've been offered by Alabama, LSU, you name it, right? And now FSU comes calling, and you're trying to win that recruiting battle. Well, you're going to have to overpay by what? Times 3, times 4, if you really want an elite player who is being offered by Texas or Georgia. I mean, it's going to be tough to beat those teams out anyhow. I don't know how much you're going to have to overpay, but it's going to be considerable to get them to say no to those schools.
Right. And the same thing for a coaching staff.
Correct.
How are you going to get
I need assurances.
How are you going to get a guy who has power level chops to come here? Now, you could go find a diamond in the rough hire that is looking to climb up the ranks. The only way you could do it, I think, is if they're a position coach at their current place and you give them a promotion. That's the only way that you have a natural carrot to dangle. It's not a lateral move to go from a power program to Florida State on a sinking ship. That is what their agent would tell them.
Yeah, no, if you think that he cannot get it done and that inevitably he's going to be fired within 2 to 3 years, yeah, you're not coming to this place. Now, you need to hope that that's not the case. You need to believe that that's not going to be the case.
Unless you're ruthless and you think you'd be the successor. But that would only be at the coordinator level. It would not be. You need position coaches too.
Yeah, hell of a thing. They went out and got an elite offensive coordinator to come in here.
I don't think they would.
I don't think they would either.
No.
But I'm saying that would be a message sent.
If we're having that conversation, then the way to have that is to say, if there's a change at defensive coordinator, that's a really important hire. Like really important hire to look at. Is it outside of the coaching tree? Is there any natural connection between the head man and the defensive coordinator? Because then you're asking yourself, well, then who made the hire? And is this your backup plan? Like that, man, this is where it gets really uncomfortable.
Well, and also, I mean, when you look at Mike's background, you look at where he's worked, who he's worked with, it's lacking when it comes to like big time power. You know, I mean, it's the Graham tree, right? It's not, Tom. I mean, it's not like you look out there and you go, oh, well, he was an assistant for Saban. Or he was an assistant for somebody in the SEC or the Big Ten. He was an assistant, you know, it's. So I guess the question is, does he know what that looks like? That's tough. It's kind of brutal to ask that.
Yeah, this is, I mean, look, they did what they thought was necessary in January to retain Mike Norvell. I was for it. And I was for the increased resources to the football program.
Well, everybody should be for that.
Yes. And I was for Mike pinching us and leveraging us in that situation so that the football program got more resources. I understand, Florida State, that you have prioritized football, but I need you to do a better job of it. I like that conversation happening because we're operating at a deficit as it is. So if in that moment you can leverage more money for the football program, then great. But then you did and you sucked. And you've done worse than you ever have here with the extra resources. So now the way that you go about this next step changes, and it's not necessarily on the administration how we got here. I think the coaching staff fell asleep here. But now the question is, how much do you trust them to get this right?
Well, here's the one thing you could do. You could say, all right, look, a lot of the money that I'm going to invest moving forward to ensure that this gets back on track. Like, I don't think we think they're going to go from 3-9 this year to 12-0 next year. But you got to be highly competitive in the league next year. You got to convince everybody that blip on the radar was just that, just a crazy part of the modern landscape of college football where transfer portal exists and transfers unlimited exist and all those things, right? Okay. And then you would factor in like, remember they were the first team unprecedentedly to be snubbed in that way. You could try to rationalize all of it. If this awful season is singular, and then next year you go 10-2 or 9-3, you might be like, okay, all right. Now, let's get back on track. That can never happen again. We all learned our lessons. But here's how you'd have to do it. You are going to have to bring in an elite quarterback. Just start there. You're going to have a guy that can help make all of these problems go away. To some extent, great quarterbacks do that. To some extent, I mean, I just got done talking about it. Look at Washington. Look at Jaden Daniels and what he's doing in Washington right now. That guy's balling like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Now, they don't have a book on him just yet, and defense coordinators will adjust, but he is kicking ass and taking names. And the one guy, and now look at Washington. They're in first place. They're 3-1. The team that drafted right after them was New England, and they took Drake May. And that kid can't get on the field, and they suck. Tale of two franchises in the draft, drafting quarterbacks, and here we go.
Well, and this goes back to the decision you made in January to not wait on roster building and taking DJ and not taking Cam Ward. The funny thing is, if you go back and teleport back in time and show Mike Norvell the newspapers or the tablet that says we're 1-4, they would have waited.
Yeah,
they would have paid.
Yeah.
And maybe they would have gotten outbid in the end. That's up for debate. But the point is, he thought, I'll be able to run the ball, so I need a manager who's got a cannon for an arm that I can use with speed and play action.
Yeah.
That was the tactical choice. But if he knew that the reality was the basis for his tactical choice was completely false and miscalculated, then he would have chosen a different quarterback in this situation. He wouldn't have even entered into this realm where you bring that guy in with a team that can't run the football. None of us, if we knew that in the offseason and you said, well, DJ is coming for another visit, and they're thinking about going with him. Well, we can't run the ball. Like, if you felt that way,
if you knew you couldn't run the ball
in that moment. No, sir.
Well, remember at the end of last year when we were having these debates, I mentioned that I thought it might be time to just go ahead and kind of bite the bullet a little bit and transition to your younger players and get them some time, and that includes Brock, and let's see what happens and go from there. And that means that maybe you go 8-4, 9-3, somewhere in there. We were talking about all these things.
We
thought maybe we should do that.
Even before Tate left, it's like, let him battle. And if he loses, he leaves, but let him battle. And then, build for 26 or 25, build for 25. And you never know. It's a 12-team playoff. Maybe by the end of the year, you're peaking in the right direction.
Yeah.
And you've built this thing. Maybe he knew that even though they brought in some 4-stars, they weren't going to be close to ready, which is also another reason where you'd look in the mirror and say, I've screwed this up.
Whew, brutally. Use Jeff25. That's a discount code for 25% off any services at DexaFit. If you've not had a DEXA scan, you'll love it. It's pretty amazing. It's a gold standard in what they use in clinical diagnoses. It's it'll tell you your bone density. It'll give you a direct measurement of visceral fat. That's the bad fat that you want to get rid of, so that you can be healthier. You can get these DEXA scans 3 to 6 months, every 6 months or so, and you can utilize them as a guide with your current workout system. They'll also offer up a lot of different exercises to go along with to help out those troubled spots. You can, I think at this point you can go and take these results to your primary care physician, a physical trainer, any of these type people, and say, hey, what do I need to work on? And they'll help you. There's a DEXA Fit now in Tallahassee. It's right over by Bumpus. And if you use the promo code Jeff25, you get 25% off of all their services. There are a lot of services. I'll talk about a different one each day. Chef Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Your local news now.
Just days after Hurricane Helene made landfall as a Category 4 storm, President Joe Biden approved a major disaster declaration for the state of Florida, paving the way for federal resources to pour into hard-hit counties. The president's action makes federal funding available to affected individuals in Charlotte, Citrus, Dixie, Franklin, Hernando, Hillsborough, Jefferson, Lafayette, Lee, Levi, Madison, Manatee, Pasco, Pinellas, Sarasota, Taylor, and Wakulla counties. A number of items are covered by the declaration, including grants for temporary housing and home repairs, loans for uninsured property losses, and other programs. Residents and business owners in the counties listed can apply for assistance by registering online at disasterassistance.gov or by calling 1-800-621-3362 or by using the FEMA app. This is Rachel Lene with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
Now, here's your Paul's Termite and Pest Control Tallahassee weather report.
Quiet start to the week with plenty of sunshine, highs staying around the 90-degree mark with lows near 70 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 70. Tuesday, slight chance of a shower, partly sunny, high of 89. Wednesday, sunny with a high of 89. Thursday, a 30% chance of rain with a high of 88. From Real Talk 93.3, this is Danielle Kelly.
For the elimination of termites, pests, and for a greener lawn too, call Paul's. They'll get them all.
Choose Hearth and Patio for custom fireplaces, maintenance, outdoor grills, kitchens, fire pits, lighting, and so much more. Check out all of Hearth and Patio's options online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Hearth and Patio, they keep the home fires burning.
Pinch a Penny Pools has 12,000 square feet of hot tubs, over 20,000 gallons of tub capacity to choose from. That's 4,620,000 cubic inches of hot tubs. But if you don't want to take my word for it, check them out yourself. Pinch a Penny Pools and Spas, locally owned, and the easiest way to find relaxation at home.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
The current federal government is actually going $1 trillion deeper in debt every 100 days. That's why thousands are turning to Goldco, a top-rated gold company, to diversify their savings with time-tested safe haven assets, physical gold and silver. Right now, not only is Goldco offering a free gold and silver kit, but on qualified purchases, they'll give you up to a 10% instant match in bonus silver. Call 855-838-GOLD. That's 855-838-GOLD. Performance may vary. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
Really quick, a doffing of the cap and a rest in peace goes out to Dikembe Mutombo. Unfortunately, he passed away. Yeah, today. The Hall of Famer and famous finger-wagging center, who, by the way, post-basketball was an incredible ambassador for the sport. Died of brain cancer, Tom. He was only 58 years old. His family revealed 2 years ago, remember reading that article, that he was undergoing treatment in Atlanta at that time for a brain tumor. I hadn't heard much since then. Obviously, it didn't go well. He passed away today. Adam Silver saying about Dikembe Mutombo that he was simply larger than life on the court. He was one of the greatest shot blockers and defensive players in the history of the league. Off the floor, he poured his heart and soul into helping others. There was nobody more qualified than Dikembe Mutombo to serve as the NBA's first global ambassador. He was a humanitarian. He loved what the game of basketball could do to make a positive impact on communities, especially in his Democratic Republic of Congo and across the continent of Africa. I had the privilege of traveling the world with Dikembe and seeing firsthand how his generosity and his compassion uplifted people. He was always accessible at NBA events over the years with his infectious smile, deep, booming voice, and signature finger wag that endeared him to basketball fans of every generation. I remember, and this is interesting, Tom, I can remember him at Georgetown, and that is a long time ago, buddy. But I remember that, and of course I remember him with the Hawks for all those years. Sixers, Nuggets, Knicks, Rockets. And now I cough so you can whistle.
Okay, well, I can whistle, or I can tell you that I know who was at Georgetown at the same time as Dikembe Mutombo. That would be my uncle, who ended up being the athletic director, but he was assistant AD in those days, in the late 80s.
Assistant AD. There it is.
Early 90s. He was also the track coach there for a while. He coached on the United States track team, Uncle Joe. But as far as I knew, as far as Uncle Joe would talk about, he was great. He was great. They had some guys that were a little bit tougher to deal with at Georgetown over that time.
But not him.
But not Dikembe.
He ranks 20th all-time in rebounds, finished with over 3,289 blocks. That's second only to Hakeem Olajuwon, and the dream was special. So you see what kind of defensive player he really was. And then the other rest in peace from my end is Christopher Christopherson. And we say rest in peace to one of the great writers, actors, and overall characters of the outlaw country world. And he was amazing. I don't think a lot of people realize this. First of all, Tom, he wrote Me and Bobby McGee. Not a lot of people realize he wrote that song. Sunday Morning Coming Down, which is an all-time great. Help Me Make It Through the Night. So many other hits that he wrote for artists all over pop, rock, country, you name it. He did all those things. A bit of a renegade. He was a Rhodes Scholar. Not a lot of people realize that. He was brilliant. He was also an athlete. That I didn't know until I read this morning. That he reignited the rugby union in Los Angeles. He also ran track and field and played football. It remains in Southern California to this day. The rugby institution that he got kind of reinitiated. And then he went on to Oxford, where he was a badass and did really well, served in the Army, and then also has a degree in philosophy from Oxford, by the way. He's a smart dude.
So he did something with the scholarship because it sends you overseas.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
He did some things. And then from there went on to become an amazing musician, went to Nashville, was a renegade, ended up becoming dear friends with Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, went to Austin, and was a big part of those early Austin City Limits days. And then was friends with Burt Reynolds, did a lot of things. So saw he passed away. He lived in a crazy fun life, though. You go look through all the stuff that he did in his life. He was one of the last people to hang out with over in Spain with Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway was nearly at his deathbed. Chris Christopherson went over to Spain, like fell in love with the running of the bulls and did that in Pamplona, and then ran into him, and they ended up having the Ernest Hemingway and him kind of had this weird encounter that he talked about on David Letterman one time. Just a really fascinating life,
Sounds like a full life. We all know those people in our world, in our orbits, that seem to always find either a celebrity or a person of note everywhere they go.
Yeah.
And you don't believe them, but then they show you the photos or they show you like a
what
text
in the
exchange.
world? Yeah.
Sounds like this guy, at least amongst the famous, was that dude.
Well, and he didn't care about any of that. Like, that's the coolest thing about him, was that he didn't need it, and he ended up falling into being an actor, and of course with Barbra Streisand in A Star Is Born, and that he was the lead in that. And of course it's been remade several times, but he was the guy. And that's that famous picture of him on the cover of the movie, of the poster. It's him and Barbra Streisand. But he was like, I never really cared about acting. Just people told me that I had a face for it, and they said that I should try it. And he's like, I did, and I liked it, and ended up doing like 50 films, and just kind of fell into those kinds of things. But mainly toured a lot with Waylon and Willie. So, there was some good times had by those gentlemen.
Very peaceful times. They could they could probably handle being 1 and 4, and you wouldn't realize the rage that they felt, because on the exterior they'd look very calm.
Yeah, very, very, very.
I'm mad, man. I got to tell you,
I'm very upset.
This is not cool. I don't like it.
I'm mad, but it doesn't. I mean, I'm kind of. I understand where we're at. I understand the situation. I understand that. Bottom line is, this is going to take a while. So if you're furious on a day-to-day basis, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to kind of get through. Like, if you can't handle, I know there are people I know who cannot handle watching their team lose games or be terrible. Like, we're terrible. It's hard to watch us right now. We do a lot of dumb things in addition to just not being good. But I think maybe it's just that I'm 53 or whatever it is. I don't know. I can watch that and detach myself from the emotions of that, and I can hate it. Like, you and I could be talking one night at a bar, or you and I could be talking on the phone, and I can vent a little bit. But when I'm watching it, I can just kind of take a step back and be like, oh, okay, so this is what they are. Strange, but this is where they're at. Now I wonder how they're going to get out from under this.
So this is one of the, it probably takes more time than the 3 minutes we have left, but this is one of the arguments I think we might have, or differences of opinion about how many tools they have to work with. I think they've got plenty to work with here. Certainly more than enough to be 3-2 or 4-1 in this situation.
They have better talent than everybody they've faced up to this point.
That is what is more damning here than anything else, is that you've got tools to have been, even if you were a fraud at 4-1 or 5-0 at this point of the year, so what? You've got the tools to do that, and you haven't been close.
No.
Like, it's not even close.
It's very damning, Tom. It's very damning. And this is why
Willie had less to work with.
Yeah.
I thought that first year he had a decent amount, but not as much as Mike has this year.
So somebody in the chats earlier was like, so wait a minute. You thought they were well coached last year, Jeff, and now you don't think they're well coached. The evidence of them not being well coached this year is everywhere you turn. Am I supposed to ignore that? Just like I wouldn't not give credit for when they won 19 in a row. You don't accidentally win 19 in a row. You had to have done some things right. You deserved credit for that. I certainly was going to laud you for having done that. When you then turn around the following year, it's a new year. We constantly assess people in any profession for what are you doing now? You may have been great at whatever. You might own a lawn care business, and you did a great job for me for 10 years. You came by every Tuesday at 10 a.m., did the service. Every time I walked out, my shrubbery looked great. The lawn looked awesome. One day I come home, a little shabby. We missed some spots over here. We did something over there that I don't like. There's a little, oh, okay. You know what? They've done a really good job. Must have been a bad day. I don't know. I'm going to let it go. Happens again 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Like, what the hell's going on with Joe's Lawn Care? It's getting a little shaky. By the end of the year, I have a different opinion of Joe's Lawn Care, despite the 10 previous years of him kicking ass. I'm going to have a conversation with Joe. This isn't it. I'm not paying you to do this half-ass job. Let's get it together. That's the way these things work. So when this goes south, God, this is the craziest game ever. The Braves came all the way back, and now the Mets have just come back again. 8-7 Mets in the ninth.
Really?
Yes.
You're not messing with me?
No. You turned it off out of disgust?
Well, because of the segment, but just as we were coming on the air, it was 7-6, so I turned it off because I'm a professional. And you're telling me I'm getting rewarded for the moment? Because we still have to get 3 more outs.
Well, the Braves just blew the lead in the ninth. This is a wild game.
Well, we've got the ball and we have to pitch again. So I think even Braves fans, I'm not in the 2-cam. We can agree, right? This is ridiculous. Braves fans, can we just put our arms around each other for a moment and say this is dumb?
Oh man. Hey, good work out of you. Appreciate you, everybody. Be well. Back with Seminole headlines tomorrow. Don't forget tonight, the Smash at 7:00. I wish I could be a part of it. I will not be there. But alas. Peace.
Kick ass on that PA.